This podcast is a member of the Voices of Wrestling Podcasting Network. Visit voicesofwrestling.com to hear the rest of our great podcasts, as well as show reviews, columns, opinions, and updates across the world of wrestling.
You are listening to the Voices of Wrestling podcast with your hosts, Joe Lanza.
X out and go listen to some boring podcast where they're afraid of their own shadow. Okay? Don't listen to Joe Lanza, because Joe Lanza's not changing.
And Rich Craich.
Give me a name. Like who delivers this guy in a big spot?
Joe, don't yell at me.
In the big spot, who delivers better than this guy?
Stop yelling at me. I agree.
And we are live here on the Voices of Wrestling Flagship podcast. I'm Rich Craich. Alongside, as always, the King of Banter, Mr. Joe Lanza. Joe, what's going on?
How are you? Happy college basketball day.
I've heard, yeah. That's what hot games are on today. who's left? The war of attrition this season will be, it appears. But yeah, what teams actually played today?
There was like 110 games scheduled.
Yeah, didn't quite happen, right?
No, like there's still like 100 games happening today, or something like 90 games or 100 games. Look, it's going to be like the football. A lot of games are going to get postponed. A lot of games are going to get canceled. You just have to kind of shrug your shoulders, and they're going to be wacky schedules for everybody, and everyone's going to play a different amount of games, and it's just when March rolls around, it is what it is. What can you do? It's odd circumstances. Just gotta kind of roll with it, I guess.
Yeah, it's been fun watching, the college football rankings, and there's like random teams that like never in a million years you think would be in, the top 25 or the top 20, and like some of these weird teams. There was a team the other day I saw, and they were like 8-1 and like dominant, and I'm like, what? When did that team get good? Like
You're talking about undefeated Coastal Carolina.
Yes, that's exactly the team. I was reading that, so I was looking at the scores and looking at the rankings, and I'm like, number 13 Coastal Carolina. Like, what the hell happened? But are they actually good, or are they just like COVID good because everybody else can't play?
I mean, they're good.
I mean, they're winning the games. They're winning the games they're playing. So
they're the usual, non-Power 5 team that makes a run every year that. No matter, they're still going to get snubbed for the playoff. BYU's undefeated, playing an independent schedule. And, they're going to get snubbed for the playoff too. And there's a lot of people saying that BYU and Coastal Carolina and some of these other teams that are in the mix, Cincinnati's another one that's undefeated. If they have open dates, there's a lot of people pushing for them to kind of maybe play each other. Because if they do that, and then at least one of them might have a chance to sneak in.
Right.
Instead of all of them getting snubbed, because obviously, they're going to take a one-loss SEC team over an undefeated Coastal Carolina or BYU team. Washington wanted to play BYU this week because they both had an open date, and BYU turned them down. So, like, BYU is being very protective of that undefeated record. But yeah, like the same shit's going to happen in basketball. I mean, you just can't expect, to play a full schedule. It's just not going to happen. I mean, but there's a lot of money on the table, and they're going to try to get these games in.
Yeah, it's going to definitely be the way with American sports, because I mean, the NBA is coming back, in December, and they're not doing a bubble anymore. They're going to be in their home arenas and stuff, and the same thing's going to happen there on potentially a much bigger scale as well. If you're talking star players, big teams, bigger TV contracts, all that sort of stuff. This is kind of the new normal right now. We everybody did the bubble, the baseball tried their little bubble for the the playoffs and the World Series or whatever. NBA did their bubble, but everyone's unfortunately, I should say, a little sick of COVID on that level. So we're gonna have the sports leagues just kind of charging ahead and hoping and praying that things are not too terrible, and then just kind of seeing what the hell happens. But yeah, this is the new normal for a little while for sports.
For now, it just is what it is. The Ravens and the Steelers got canceled for Thanksgiving. It's just, I don't, it's like less and less people are making a big deal out of it when these games get canceled. We're all just used to it now. It's just games are going to get canceled. Games are going to get moved around. It just is what it is. So I don't know. I mean, I'm just happy that there was wall-to-wall college basketball on today. It was awesome. I mean, we didn't get the tournament last year. That was very deflating. Remember, that was like the first big thing that got taken off.
Yeah. I remember that. People being like, what? How? Why? No. Like, people thinking, well, they'll just delay it, or they'll just move it back a week, or they'll just move it back a month. And that's, I think what was actually interesting is that to me was one of the first moments where I think everybody quite, wrapped their head around what was going on. Because, and obviously, living with a nurse, I was like aware of it from, pretty much the first point it was in America, or even before that, when they're getting warnings, hey, by the way, this is coming, get prepared, do all this sort of stuff. But like the general population, they, especially in America here, it took a little while for it to really sink in that like, hey, this is a thing. And by the way, this thing's not going to be over in like 2 weeks. Because, you go back to, the innocent days of, March and late February where people are like, we'll stay in our houses for 2-3 weeks. Then we'll be back. And they'll do March Madness in, May, and it'll be fine. And they straight up were just like, nope, it's not happening. Bye. We'll see you guys next year. And it was like, oh, okay. That's kind of weird. And the NBA says, hey, we're going away. We're not coming back for a while. Bye. And like the dominoes started falling one by one. But yeah, I do remember March Madness being the first eye-opening thing where people were like, wait, what? It's just like, they're just not going to do it at all. And it was like, no, they're not. they're not coming back, and we're not delaying it, and it's gone. And that, the little by little, one after another, things start just plummeting and falling and falling and falling. And then, now we're in whatever this is right now. So,
well, the problem with March Madness was everybody graduated. You can't bring people back to play some dopey tournament in the middle of, July or whatever. Whereas the NHL and the NBA, those are professionals. You can send them home for a couple months, bring them back. They play for pay. That's some of the college basketball players do.
James Wiseman would disagree with, and many other people too. He just got caught,
Yeah, but I mean, that was the difference there. But yeah, that was the first big ticket event that got wiped out was March Madness. Because remember, it the Rudy Gobert thing happened right at the beginning of the conference tournaments, and it was that weird, spooky day.
Oh, that one weird day where like they had canceled March Madness, but like St. John's is still playing like the Big East tournament or something. And it's like, what's going on?
Like, one by one, each of the conferences canceled their conference tournaments, but the first Big East game of the day was already on the floor. They were in the middle of the first half. Everything else is getting canceled while that game is happening. And it was St. John's against I guess it's not important. It was definitely St. John's, though, because they beat Georgetown the night before. And then they went into the half, and they never came back out. So they played one half. They went in for the half, and they saw that the rest of the country had canceled all of their tournaments, and that was the last shred of college basketball that we've had until today, where there's wall-to-wall games. Most of these games have no fans, but it's weird because basketball is a little different. Like, the benches are very vocal. So there is some atmosphere.
Yeah.
And in a lot of these sites, there's random people in the stands. I don't know who they are. I guess like security guards, maybe a couple, maybe just staff from the university.
Yeah, it could be university employees or, the AD's family or, the different people that work for, there's a ton of just ancillary people or auxiliary people, I should say, hanging around, college basketball teams or college basketball, college sports in general. So I guess it's probably those people, but who knows?
And a lot of these are the tournaments because, Thanksgiving week is always, the crazy tournament. So like the next teams up are sitting in the stands. So it's this weird deal where
it's like all Japan did, where the guys on the undercard are, you're done with your match, you go in the stands, you make noise.
So there's kind of an atmosphere, and you kind of get a pop now and then when there's a big basket because the bench goes crazy. Now the benches I think aren't supposed to be doing that. Like they're doing the NBA thing where all the seats are like 6 feet apart.
Which is, by the way, like
it's the dumbest thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's so ridiculous because then it's like, all right, guys, when you sit down, make sure you're 6 or 7 feet apart or whatever. Which, on in a normal circumstance is very good idea. Is do that. Be careful. But then like, all right, now you're on the court, so now just huddle in with 9 other people. Just like, well, what? Yeah. Like the fuck.
You're sitting 6 feet apart, but then you check into the game and you post somebody up. And
right, then you're 4 fucking centimeters away from the next guy, and 8 other guys throughout the rest of the game. So it's like, what the?
Yeah, you're breathing on each other's faces in the post, and then like there's a timeout, and they all get into the huddle. Like, then what's the point of having these? It's all for show. You know what I mean? It's like it's so they can say, look at everything we're doing for. You're not doing shit. You're playing. Look, if you're going to
playing
play
indoor
game,
basketball, you're not doing anything. So, like,
and look, I'm not even ripping them because I'm sitting here watching it. But what I'm saying is just remove all of the pretense. I mean, there's no need to have everyone on the bench. Right now, I'm watching this West Virginia game. Bob Huggins, okay? Everybody loves little Bob Huggins.
I better be careful with Bob. He looks like he's on his deathbed on any given day, so you better be careful with Bob.
Listen, Bob Thuggins, he's a nut. He's picking up games that other teams are dropping. Did you see? He's like, oh, I'll take that spot. He's playing Gonzaga in a couple weeks. He's like, because somebody dropped out. He's insane. Because like you're saying, he's not exactly the pillar of health, and he's got no mask on the sideline.
Oh, perfect, great.
Bob Huggins is the only coach I've seen all day that isn't wearing a mask, which makes so much sense.
Yes,
if you know
it's
perfect.
Perfect Bob Huggins. I would expect nothing less from.
So the West Virginia bench, the West Virginia bench, you got Bob Huggins with no mask. You've got the players sitting 6 feet apart, and the last every time they put the camera on Huggins, you could see the 3 players behind him with the masks around their neck, not over their mouth. So it's just like, what are we even doing here? Just take the thing off then. Like, you're not even pretending, So, look, Rich, we punted this shit so long ago. It's like, how can you even get worked up about it? All I know is there's college basketball on today from 11 a.m. until 1 in the morning. And I'm going to watch every second of it. So, I'm not going to be a hypocrite and complain because Bob Huggins isn't wearing his mask. That's on him. You're going to be reading about Bob Huggins catching COVID within the next.
Oh, no doubt, 100%. Yeah, he among many other college basketball coaches, I could definitely would be on my high list to definitely catch COVID during this time. And yeah, it is always interesting too, because like I'll be on the couch watching some random sport or whatever, I'm watching football or I'm watching basketball or whatever. I had college basketball on earlier, and the nurse comes home after like a 13-hour shift working on the COVID unit. It's just like, I'm like, yeah, college basketball's on. She's like, oh god damn it. Just goes to bed, and like, it's so weird, like the different universes that people live in during this time, where she's fighting to keep people alive, and I just got my feet up watching some fucking UT San Antonio versus whoever, like college basketball.
She's wearing a hazmat suit at work.
She's wearing an N95 and a fucking hazmat suit for 13 hours. I'm sitting on the couch eating French fries, going, "Oh wow, college basketball's back, cool."
And Bob Huggins has his
right.
Russian mobster tracksuit on with no mask, and he's getting on airplanes, bouncing around the country, taking his West Virginia team because he thinks his team is real good this year. So he's getting out there and he wants to play all these tournaments and play everybody, and so West Virginia, that's the team to keep an eye on for the next team to basically wipe out the next 3 weeks of their schedule when one of these guys picks up COVID, but. I don't know. I'm going to enjoy it while it's on.
Yeah, sports. Hey, I'll take it. No doubt. So we got plenty to get to this week. I did want to briefly start the show, though. We have, obviously we're going to talk about Noah. People can see, if you're a live viewer, you can see the thumbnail for this is, Go Shiozaki versus Nakajima, which we are going to talk about. We'll talk about that entire show. We are going to talk WWE. Taker's final farewell. I know you're just chomping at the bit to talk about champing at the bit, whatever the fuck it is, I don't care, about Taker's final farewell. We also want to talk about Bob Ryder as well, as he passed away pretty tragically today, and his impact on the wrestling world. But I'm not going to do this normal segment that we do every Thanksgiving where I'd say, "Hey Joe, you're cooking a turkey," like all that. One thing I am going to bring up, though, and I have this on my notes, because I realize that in all the years that we've discussed your turkey cooking techniques, which are great, and I have definitely adapted to them, and Michelle's still too scared to do it, but when we have like a burner turkey, like you get a turkey after Thanksgiving and you cook it like in January or February or whatever, your method of cooking the turkey upside down, I have now fully adopted, and it absolutely is the perfect way to cook a turkey.
Yeah, it works. Yeah, because you don't get the dried out breast.
Yeah, and that's like, she's scared to do it because, if she's got like her parents over, it's, it's weird because it's not showy. The show is you put the fucking... everybody can close their eyes. You know what it looks like. The fucking birds, out there, breasts out. That's the kind of the typical look. But yeah, it's not the best way to eat it. It's not the best way to cook it. Your upside down turkey method is fantastic. And yeah, anytime because I'll go to like the grocery store now, like 2 weeks from now, and turkeys are fucking like $3. You know what I mean? You can get like a 20-pound turkey for $3 because they just want to get rid of it. I always scoop those up. I wish I had the garage freezer like you. and then I could get a few more of them. But I'll get like one or two. And anytime we cook those, if it's just for her and I, upside down every single time. Get a little creative with the rubs. Get a little creative with what you stuff it with, all that sort of stuff. But on Thanksgiving, people are scared to buck the trends and do it in a different, unique way. So.
Does she put the little booties on the legs, the little white booties?
She does. No booties. Yeah,
no booties?
Those are strange. Why did those ever exist?
I think again, it's just for show.
Just for show.
I think it's you're putting little booties on the legs of your turkey. It doesn't make any sense to me. No, but when you do the upside down turkey, you can't even flip it back over because it's like it's wet and it's sloppy looking because all of the juices are now in the breast. You don't need the juices in the thigh meat because the dark meat's already going to be, it isn't going to, that's already sort of a juicier meat. So you're right. You can't show it off once you do that. But you can't be concerned with that. You got to be concerned with the flavor and what it's going to taste like. Because it's very easy to dry out a turkey. Very easy. First of all, you're cooking the thing for like 6 fucking hours. So, a lot can go wrong. I thought we weren't going to do this segment.
I know. You can go ahead if you want. I was not going to do it. I was actually going to ask a different question about Thanksgiving cooking.
Well, what's your different question?
Well, my different question is we've always talked about how you've cooked the turkey, but I've never asked a Joe Lanza what his side dishes are. Do you stay traditional? Do you go fun? Do you go interesting? Do you just cook fucking stuffing and potatoes, or what does a Joe Lanza Thanksgiving side dish lineup look like?
No, I stay traditional.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of Italians will do a lasagna as well on Thanksgiving. I don't do that. I don't make lasagna. I make the world's worst lasagna, so I don't do that. It's just an item that I cannot master.
Lasagna is a tough one. When people of the lasagnas I've had in my life, half are good and half are fucking trash and terrible.
Yeah,
and like there's no in between. You know what I mean? And like the second you stick the fork in, you just know it's gonna be a garbage ass lasagna immediately.
Yeah.
But then sometimes you do it and it's perfect. But yeah, it seems that even people that are like, because I have buddies who are really good at cooking a lot of different Italian dishes, and they just won't even touch lasagna. They just don't bother. It's there's an art form to it, I guess.
I don't know. Some things I'm just like, if I'm not good at making something, I just hand wave it. Why keep making a terrible lasagna? What sense does that make? Nobody wants to eat that shit. So, I just hand wave the lasagna. I don't make lasagna in this house, but no, otherwise it's just the standard sides. I don't, like what kind of wacky sides are you talking about here?
I'm just curious. I was just wondering so what the hell do? You just get fucking cans of cranberry sauce and cans of fucking sweet potatoes and toss them on a plate? Like, what are we talking here?
I don't like cranberry sauce. I think it's vile.
I'm the only person that likes cranberry sauce, but that's fine.
I think you are. I don't think anyone eats that except for you.
I make two different. I make so I'll do the traditional, just fucking open up the can with the fucking lines in it, cranberry sauce, because
how do you eat that?
It's not great, but it just
you got to admit that's rough.
It's not good. It's not great. It is weird. It's an acquired taste, and I'm not entirely sure if I like it. It's like my brain tells me I like it, and I really don't know if my brain's like lying to me. I guess the brain would control both of those aspects. So it's weird because no, it's not good. I know it stinks, but there's something about it that hits a spot. And then I do a slow cooker cranberry sauce as well, which is pretty good.
Well, if you're cooking one, see the one that comes out of the can with the lines, it's like sliced gelatin. It's just
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's it's not gross. Like, all right, if I get some on my plate, it's not like if I get some in my mouth, it's not like I'm gonna be spitting it out and, the Iron Sheik, hak fui, I'll chew it and swallow it. But it's not something I'm going out of my way to put on the dish, is what I'm saying.
Right. You got some space on the plate. You might throw a little bit on there if you just want to say, hey, is this still, what I remember it being? And then you take a bite and you go, it's about the same thing. But yeah, you would not like my plate has got a lot of cranberry sauce. I'm a big fan. I don't know why.
If you're a fan, you're a fan. That's the other thing my entire life, and I never learned, okay, is coleslaw. I will try the slaw and think I'm going to like it every time, and I never like it.
Oh, I think is one of the problems the variants of coleslaw?
Well, yeah, because I'm like, all right, well, I always liked the idea of coleslaw, but I don't think I've ever had a coleslaw that I liked.
Well, some are really good, and that is similar to like our lasagna thing. It's like, some coleslaws are just fucking incredible, but you don't really remember what made it incredible or what made it good, at least for me. And then you end up like eating 9 bad coleslaws hunting for the one that you had that was pretty good, and it's a rarity. Like sometimes like you go to a barbecue place or whatever, and the coleslaw that they have is really good, but then again, like 9 times out of 10 you're gonna get shit coleslaw that's just absolutely unbearably bad. So yeah, I don't know.
No matter where we go, where you have to like pick 3 sides or 4 sides or whatever, I'm always like, I'll take that. I'll take the macaroni and cheese, and you know what? Give me the coleslaw. TLB's always like, you're not going to like the coleslaw. I'm like,
Right.
no, just give me the coleslaw.
Me and the nurse have the same discussion. She goes, no, I know I will like it. And then she literally 99% of the time does not like it.
Then I get home. I take a big
She
fork
gets
full
upset
of
about it. She gets
coleslaw.
upset.
I put it on the plate, and I'm like, I'm gonna. She's like, you're not gonna like the coleslaw. I take a bite of the coleslaw, and I'm like, this fucking sucks. Why did I get the coleslaw? She's like, I told you weren't gonna like the coleslaw. And I get mad at myself. And I'm like, why every time do I fall for the coleslaw? I never like the coleslaw. It's fucking cabbage, first of all, which is a terrible vegetable. I mean, it's just bitter and nasty. And I've never come across a coleslaw where I was like, yeah, I need second helpings of that. It's nasty. But I can guarantee you the next time I go somewhere that offers me coleslaw, I will accept that offer and think that I'm going to like it again. I don't know what it is. I just keep coming back to the coleslaw. It's kind of like some of these bad wrestling promotions. It's like Black Label Pro. Every time there's a Black Label Pro show, I'm like, you know what? I got nothing to do. I'm going to watch this Black Label Pro show. Lineup looks all right. 70 minutes in, I'm like, this is the worst indie in the country.
Yeah, Alex Shelley, Josh Alexander. How could this go wrong? There's a lot of good talent on this show. Lee Moriarty, Alex Shelley, Josh Alexander. Yeah, this should be good. This should be great.
Yeah, it's the coleslaw of wrestling, and then you're an hour and a half in, or you're an hour in, you're fucking 45 minutes in. You're like, why am I doing this? Every time I watch Black Label Pro, it's horrendous, but it keeps bringing me back. So I really have to just put a stop to coleslaw and Black Label Pro. I just got to put my foot down and resist the temptation, because neither of those things are ever good.
So there you go, coleslaw. So yeah, I was hoping to get some ideas from you here, but yeah, you're just a plain old. Like, what do we do? Boxed mashed potatoes? Like, what are we doing here?
Never boxed. What are you talking about? You
So
can't.
it's just normal mashed potatoes.
Let me ask you a question. Why would anyone use the boxed mashed potato when mashed potato is like the easiest thing on earth to
Absolutely,
make?
and potatoes are the cheapest thing to buy. It is.
Yeah.
Every time I get potatoes, I get I tend to buy more sweet potatoes, and I end up making I make like a bourbon sweet potato thing for Thanksgiving, which is pretty nice. I do, if I do say so myself, pretty good a treat there. But it's like whatever amount for price per pound, and I always just end up getting like 8 pounds because it's so fucking cheap that I'm like, I'll use these. I only end up using like 3/4 of them or half of them at most, but they're falling down. You go to the store and they're just falling out of the produce area. Like 6 fall on the ground as you're picking your 12 up and throwing them into the bag. It's so silly. And then I see people that like eat boxed mashed potato. I'm like, what are you doing? Why? I mean, this isn't like some complex recipe. I mean, you just boil them, and then you literally just mash them. Add butter to your liking. Add a little salt, maybe a little garlic if you want to get crazy. This isn't a difficult thing to make. So I don't get it either. Why are you buying the processed? It doesn't make any sense to me. So no, there will be no boxed mashed potatoes. There will be no boxed stovetop stuffing in this house either on Thanksgiving. I'll go with the boxed stovetop stuffing on like a regular, Thursday night when I'm making, some baked chicken or something, and I'm just trying to make a quick dinner, but not for Thanksgiving. You can't. You got to go all out for Thanksgiving. So you're chopping up the bread. You're chopping up the bread, stuffing it in there that way.
You got to go scratch on Thanksgiving with all your items. Nothing should be coming out of a box or a can. I mean, you've got the night before to do it. You've got all day Thursday to do it. I mean, what? Yeah, come on. One day a year you can't cook properly, So no, nothing out of a box or a can.
Well, there you go. All right, so that is Joe Lanza's. It struck me as we were, as we're approaching this show and obviously not able to record tomorrow because of the holiday, that I was like, man, I've never asked Joe what his sides are, but yeah, you're not a so.
And now listen, I'm not a Quaker. Okay, I'm not making like fresh stuffing on July 8th on a Wednesday night. Okay, I'm not a fucking I'm not a I'm I didn't just hop off the Mayflower. Okay, I'm not churning butter in the backyard and baking fresh bread, on August 6th on a Saturday night. But Thanksgiving, you got to go all out. There's no question. You can't. There's no reason to be lazy on Thanksgiving. The whole basis of the holiday is cooking and eating.
Yeah, right. There's not many other days where you get 8 hours to cook something. So it's like, there's no excuse not to bring the A game if you can. So. Right.
I'm not trying to say like it's not Little House on the Prairie over here, 365, but a day like that, you got to go all out.
All right. So I do want to note as well for people listening, this is our first time using a different service than we usually use. Usually we're on Google Hangouts when you and I record these. Google has decided to move everybody over to Google Meet. So I think everything's fine. Everybody says it sounds okay. Stable so far, but if there are issues, if something goes wrong, if we randomly get disconnected, that is potentially the issue is Google Meet. So just kind of letting you guys know about that if we either sound different or whatnot. But you actually sound better than ever. So I don't know. Maybe Google Hangouts was trash for all this time. Little did we know, Google Meet is what we always needed. So
Google Meet sounds like a dating site or something.
It kind of does. Yeah, I think it's supposed to be their like Zoom competitor. I mean, Google Hangouts was kind of the same thing anyway, but this allows me to like present my screen to you, Joe. So cool. And we can go on a whiteboard. We can discuss, if say you're trying to tell me, hey, I have to go to the bathroom, you can open the whitebourt and scratch P
I'm
in
not
there.
Gonna, I'm not going to open the whiteboard and scratch P. No, I'm not going to do that. If I have to go to the bathroom, I'm going to say, Rich, I got to take a leak.
Rich, tell us about this match. And then I know that means
just
Joe's
walk
going
away.
to the bathroom.
Yeah. Which you pull on me sometimes. And I know, like, you always set me up for something where I'm just going to blabber my mouth for 4 straight minutes. But I kind of pick up that you're not there after a while. And I get the panic. Do you ever get the panic when you pick up on?
Yeah, and like that person's going to be gone for maybe a minute tops, but you're wondering, oh my God, what if it's like 10 minutes? What if it's 8 minutes? What if it's 20 minutes? What if like I run out of things to say? And when you run out of things to say and you're not sure how to like transition away from the fact that you just put an awkward amount of silence in there, because you're like, so what did you think of it, Joe? And then like even if it's like 4 seconds of silence, you're like, oh God, oh no, what do I do? How do I get it back? You're like, so like you answer your own question in weird ways. It's.
I pick up the panic once I sense you're not there, and then what's running through my mind: how am I going to fill the time? And in reality, it's probably like 90 seconds, but in my mind, it's like 90 minutes.
Right, and you also start talking faster. I think, oddly enough, when that panic happens, at least for me, I start like talking a mile a minute. I'm like, no, I should stretch it out. I shouldn't do that, but. That nervousness comes in, and you just end up kind of,
because in your head you're like, "Oh my God, I don't hear him breathing. Oh my God, I don't hear any mm-hms. There's no one there. It's like I'm going without a net here. I've got no one to jump in." Meanwhile, behind the paywall, we go by ourselves. We go solo all the time and go like an hour.
Yeah, I know, dude.
Like
hours upon hours of hours of solo
hours
audio.
upon hours of solo audio with no problems, but. If I know you're gone, I panic if I sense that you're gone, and that's only going to be like 2 minutes. But meanwhile, I could do a Jovember to Remember on one take and go an hour and 10 minutes nonstop. It doesn't make any sense.
Now, where would I be able to listen to this Jovember to Remember that you're talking about here?
Oh, patreon.com/Voices of Wrestling. Jovember to Remember is back, Rich. It's been a while. That Puro tournament season really fucked me up. I mean, it just totally destroyed my schedule. But episode 14 is up on the Voice of Wrestling Patreon, $5 tier. And we take a look, the latest edition, ECW Hardcore TV number 13. We're still in the afterglow of the Super Summer Sizzler Spectacular and the Texas Chain Massacre between Terry Funk and Eddie Gilbert.
Could that event have more titles to it? What was the Super Summer Sizzler Spectacular?
Rich, you don't know how sick I am of saying Super Summer Sizzler Spectacular 16 times per show. I am so sick of saying that because it's wordy. It's alliteration. I get tongue-tied every time. It's an absolute disaster. But we're still in the aftermath of the Terry Funk, Eddie Gilbert, Texas Chain Massacre. We discussed the turn of Kevin Christian as he the first heel referee. It was not Bill Alfonso. It was Kevin Christian a couple years earlier, first ECW heel referee, as he turned heel in that match and became Freddie Gilbert. We talk about that. And the Koloffs, an amazing squash match. Rich, you got to go out of your way to watch this Ivan and Vladimir Koloff versus Hervé Renesto and Glenn Osborne squash match off of this TV show.
Okay, so it's episode. What'd you say? 14?
13.
ECW Hardcore TV 13. All right, I put it on a word pad as of a.
This
look, sounds anytime you do that, like that's a pretty high recommendation. You tell me I have to watch the squash match. You've never steered me wrong on one of those. So
it's like a 3-minute match and it fucking rules. I want to go back in time and vote Ivan Koloff for the Hall of Fame, even though he already got in. You were an Ivan Koloff voter, weren't you?
I forget if I was. Yeah, was I? Let me go do a quick little research while you tell your story. I think I was. Yeah, I don't think that's out of nowhere, but let me find out.
Well, he got in anyway, so it doesn't matter. But this squash match is something else. I don't want to give it away to you. Like,
yeah, 2015. 2015, I voted him in.
Yeah, but my God, I couldn't believe how good this was. And believe me, Vladimir holds up his end, because we all know that that guy didn't last very long. It kind of stinks. But my God, what a squash! But yeah, so episode 14 of Jovember is up. Your best of the super. Did you come up with a clever name?
I never got a clever name. Nah, I get. So the problem is when I did the clever names, I did the Super Brawl Tell All or the Super Brawl Recall and then the Fall Brawl Recall or Tell. And I was like, I'm mixing these up, and I'm like racking my brain thinking about these. Like, you have no idea how long I just sit on like a giant list of like kitschy names to call these things, and I'm just like, fuck it. VOW Retro Best of the Super Juniors. You know what it is. I don't need to come up with a funny snazzy name. So no, it is just a retro series of Best of the Super Juniors finals, and we just released 1991, so 1998, 1988, and 1991 are both out. Going to be recording the next few ones. 1994 coming up in the next few days here. That's Super Delphin versus Jushin Thunder Liger, a match we talked about in one of our deep dive episodes as well. We're really getting to like the peak of New Japan Junior Division here in the mid 90s, and then obviously things take a pretty steep decline during the Enochiism days, but then we pick it back up, in the mid 2000s where things really get going, and then into the current day where this tournament becomes just like an incredible showcase of like the top junior talent in the world. So it's been pretty fun so far. Yeah, 88, 1991 are up there. Mostly doing recaps and discussing like the lesser known wrestlers that like, in 1991 is Honaga versus Jushin Thunder Liger. I don't go over Jushin Liger that much, but I go real deep into Honaga and his background, his history, and stuff like that. So it's been cool because I think that's literally the first Honaga match I had ever seen in my life. So it was cool to watch that. And that's like, the upset of the century as this, tournament doormat comes out of nowhere to win the whole thing and win the title and become a made man after that as well. So yeah, 88, 99, 91 are up. 94 coming soon, and then we'll have a bunch more over the next week or so. So as we try to catch up, and hopefully we'll get through them all, but we'll see what ends up happening.
So, as always, we have a lot of new subscribers. If you are on the $10 tier, okay, I've had several people ask me now that there's a new Jovember, they're going back and trying to listen from the start, and the posts are locked. That's a glitch in Patreon. We have to explain this every couple of months. You have to downgrade your sub to the $5 tier, which then unlocks all of the old $5 tier content, and then immediately upgrade back to the $10 tier. You will not get charged twice. It's the only known workaround. I have sent 1 million tickets to Patreon to try to figure out this bug. They very clearly are not going to help me with this. I keep getting back automated emails and someone's going to get back to me. They never do. I give up. The workaround, unfortunately, is the only way to seemingly get around this. You have to go down to the $5 tier and then upgrade right back to the $10 tier. And what that will do is it will retroactively open up all of those $5 posts that are locked from before you subscribed at the See, what happens is if you subscribe for $10 today, everything that we post for 1, 5, or 10 will be available to you moving forward. But all of the stuff below the $10 tier from before you subscribed is going to be locked.
Right. And a lot of it before, the $10 tier even existed as well, which is super, super annoying.
Very annoying. But that's the workaround. It takes 2 minutes. There hasn't been a single person to report back that it did not work for them. It works every time. I know it's a pain. I know it's an extra step. I wish there was another way to solve this. Patreon has no interest in working with me on this. I just don't think that they're set up to handle the way we have our tiers set up and whatnot. It's just, it is what it is. So you just have to do that little workaround. If you're a new subscriber and you want to go listen to all the Jovembers, that's the way you're going to have to do it. And that goes for any of the older content from before the $10 tier existed. I think that's the cutoff. And then I had someone telling me it was anything for $5 from before they subscribed. I don't know if that person was confused or, but I know for a fact it's all of the $5 stuff from before we added the $10 tier. So now if you're on the $5 tier and then you upgrade to 10, you should be good.
You'll be fine. I believe you're okay.
This is for if you come in as a new $10 subscriber, you're going to face that little bug where a lot of the $5 stuff is locked. That's the workaround. And what I'm going to do, I posted it a couple weeks ago, but about once a month, I'm going to make a post on the Patreon itself reminding everybody that that is the workaround, because we constantly have new subscribers and they're constantly confused. And I don't want anyone to think that we're ripping them off. I want you to get the full value. If you're on that $10 tier, you should be able to access.
You're going to get it all. Yeah, don't feel bad. Like, because I feel people are always like, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and it's like, no. You fucking paid $10. You can listen to everything. That's the point. So,
yeah. So if you're on that $10 tier, there shouldn't be anything that's locked anywhere on the page. None of the written content, nothing. So that's the little workaround for that. Patreon.com/Voices of Wrestling. $10 gets you everything, including all of the live content, and $5 gets you most of everything. So subscribe today. How about that, Rich? You should do it today. I don't care if it's Thanksgiving when you listen to this. Stop what you're doing and subscribe today.
All right. Patreon.com/Voice of Wrestling, by the way. VoiceOfWrestling.com/Patreon. Make sure you're doing that. All right. Let's get to the meat of the show here. We unfortunately have to start off. We're going to get to. Don't worry, we will get to Taker's final farewell. Do not worry. But before we do that, though, some unfortunate news in the world of wrestling. The passing of Impact Wrestling's Bob Ryder. Bob Ryder had apparently been battling cancer for a few years. I did not know that. Actually, I was kind of surprised when I heard that news. But apparently, he was found dead this morning. Apparently, he had a fall the night before. Let people know, hey, I'm okay, I'm fine. Just had a fall, but I'll be back later. Or yada yada yada. And then people didn't hear from him afterwards, and unfortunately found that he had passed away sometime last night, or they had discovered him today. So, pretty tragic story there for Bob Ryder and his passing away. And he's a guy who, a lot of people. He's one that I find that there's people either know a lot about Bob Ryder and he's a very familiar name and a very obvious name to people, or people just don't know him at all. And the name means nothing to anybody. And I think that's kind of an interesting dynamic of Bob Ryder, because he's a guy who really, from the day that Impact Wrestling began, he was there. And we can start that way as we kind of work backwards over his career. I mean, he essentially is the one that gets the idea in the head of Jeff and Jerry Jarrett, saying, hey, you should run your own company. WWF's not going to hire us because of a multitude of reasons for both Jeff and Jerry and Bob as well. Doesn't seem like he thought he had any prospects of ever getting hired by that company. So he says, well, why don't you make your own company? And that's kind of when the idea of Impact Wrestling TNA gets going, is from him. But yeah, he dates back to WCW, and even before that, did some online radio stuff and some internet writing for them. But his real beginning, and this is the reason I kind of wanted to talk about Bob Ryder at length, is his real beginning was with OneWrestling.com, one of the early and most prominent early wrestling news sites on the internet. He was kind of the head of it, of OneWrestling.com, and a big part of that website, and a big part of early, internet wrestling communities too, with a Prodigy and different message boards and stuff like that. Like, really one of the early guys to harness the power of the internet for pro wrestling. But before I had a question, I actually kind of want to get into your history a little bit. But before that, anything that or wanted to say about Bob Ryder?
I mean, not really. I think you summed it up pretty good. It's a guy that was, a lot of people. Now, he's been with Impact Wrestling for years and years and years from the start.
Right. Literally the start, and I think was always there. I don't think he ever left, as far as I know.
Yeah, doing a variety of jobs. I think most recently he handled the travel and a lot of the talent relations stuff, but just in a variety of roles. And he goes all the way back to the dying days of WCW. And like you said, the early days of what used to be the internet wrestling community, which is a term I hate now because we talk
everybody
about it all
is
the
on
time.
the internet. It's so
Yeah,
dumb.
I mean,
People on Twitter being like, "Oh, you IWC people," I'm like, we're on Twitter. Like,
yeah, you're on.
it's
Yeah,
2020.
there's not a single human that's
My
not on the
grandma,
internet.
my grandparents have internet. Like,
But I mean, that was a legitimate term in
Yes.
1994.
Yes.
I mean, that, because there was a small percentage of fans that were on the internet, and that made them the internet wrestling community. And in those days, it was mostly smarks and newsletter reading types and things like that. And because, they were the ones that were seeking out wrestling content on the very early internet. And I mean, I have to tell you, like, a big reason that, I got on the internet in those early days was specifically for wrestling. I mean, it was, in the mid 90s or, the early 90s or whatever. It's like, I wanted to be on the internet so I can seek out wrestling information. Like, that was my prime objective for finally, getting on the internet in those early days with dial up and all that.
yeah, that's what I was actually going to ask that question. That's what, got me on this is looking at Bob Ryder's career and going back to those old Prodigy chats and One Wrestling and stuff. And I was kind of curious, like, hey, how did you kind of get into, wrestling on the internet? How did you quite find it? And my entry story is almost exactly the same. Like, I went to a buddy's house and he had, AOL, and I remember we were kind of just clicking around and doing shit, and I discovered that there were wrestling chat rooms, and I was like, holy shit, like, oh my god, like, I could talk wrestling with other people like around the world. And immediately, like, that night I went home and I was like, Mom, we need to have the internet, we have to have the internet. And that's pretty much from that moment till the fucking literal second that I'm talking here. The most important thing I've done on the internet is probably wrestling related, you know what I mean? From the moment I got it till today, it's my internet has pretty much been, not 100%, but majority focused on pro wrestling. So yeah, you have a similar story as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I wanted to get on the internet, primarily when it first became a thing that was widely accessible to, normal people. Because you can go back to the 80s where you would, like, the earliest modems and things like that, and the earliest versions of email where it was just like your super hardcore neckbeard nerd types who were on this thing called the internet that everybody was just disregarding, swearing to everyone it was going to be the future and everybody ignoring them. And then 5-6 years later, it turned out to be the truth. And, I wanted to get in on this primarily for wrestling. And Bob Ryder is one of those guys that was kind of one of the early pioneers of the internet wrestling community when that was a legitimate term. So, yeah, I mean, that's why he's a name where if you're of a certain age and are a longtime fan, that's a name you've been familiar with and that you recognize going back, 25 years at this point. And then, of course, he ended up in the wrestling business with WCW. And you mentioned One Wrestling, which was, one of the biggest news sites of its day. I think it still exists. I mean, I don't think
it still does. Yeah, Bill Apter actually writes for One Wrestling these days,
yeah.
Which is very interesting. As these kind of relics of the internet's past, the internet wrestling past, are still kind of around, and the website looks, I think, probably how it did in 2002. It doesn't look super updated, but yeah, it's still off. It's still going, and a lot of these names have. Interestingly enough, still around and still doing stuff. And yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to ask about, like, wrestling sites that you frequented, because yeah, when I went today to find, hey, is One Wrestling still around? And I find not only is One Wrestling still around, and that was a website that I went to along with a bunch of other sites, but not only is it still around, but Bill Apter, wrestling, PWI's Bill Apter is still writing for it and is now kind of the head guy of it. And it's just like, god damn, like, once you're in this wrestling news biz, you're just kind of there for life, it seems. It's really bizarre. And these sites, like, I used to be a big Raja.com fan, and that's still around. There used to be a site called the People's Wrestling website, tpww.net or something. And I found out that that's still around. And all these have, like, the same layouts that they had in, like, 2002. And it's just, it boggles my mind that these sites just, like, still exist. And I guess they're still getting enough traffic to be worth, running and stuff. But yeah, it's just really bizarre how long these sites last.
by the time the 2000s came around, because I'm a little older than you, it was like by then I was just fully embedded into the sheets. So it was like I kind of avoided site. I didn't really have a use for those sites because they were just much like today. They were just regurgitating
Right.
what was in the Observer or the Torch or whatever. So it was like redundant at that point. And you would begin to learn, okay, well, I could see where some of them are bullshitting and where others are just, copy pasting Meltzer or Keller. So you kind of avoided them. You remember Mikasa? Do you remember that one? Do you remember?
So I don't think, because, Brian Alvarez today on Wrestling Observer Live was talking about, Prodigy and the early internet and his stuff. I do not remember Mikasa whatsoever. So I guess I completely missed the Mikasa run. But
do you remember,
that was one that he brought up right away.
Oh, he did. Yeah. Well, he's about my age. So do you remember Bagpipe Report?
I do remember the Bagpipe Report, though. I do remember that. Was that on Mikasa or no? Were those separate?
No, that was like a digital newsletter kind of deal. Like it would come, you'd get it like in your email.
Yes. Yeah.
I forget the dude. There's probably people screaming at us, but I can't remember the guy. He's still, I think.
Is it Blake Norton? Does that
Yes,
name sound right? But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why. Again, I don't know anything about the stock market. I can't do anything on a car, but I can tell you that Blake Norton wrote the Bagpipe Report. Like, God damn it! Like, what am I doing with my life?
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
And then there were news groups. There's probably a lot of people who don't even know what that is. Like there were news groups where you would talk wrestling, and it's like early versions of message boards, but they weren't really like message boards. They were. Do you remember news groups at all?
I was probably too late to the news groups thing, because by the time I started getting on the internet, that's when chat rooms began, and that's when forums really started as well. So I was more of a message board, chat room guy more so than the news groups.
Yeah, so that was kind of like a thing, and it's. But remember, internet was so like it was all 56K dial up, and you really it's really just. But things advanced pretty quickly, and then a lot of that old way of passing information just kind of went to dust, and like you're saying, it then became. Chat rooms and especially message boards then became a thing. And then the message board era, I mean, that was just the Wild West. And now message boards are basically dead. I mean, our own message board, the traffic just died. We came in at the very tail end of that and just gave up on it. And people seem to have moved on. I think Twitter largely killed message boards. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt.
And now, it's kind of like going in reverse because now Discords are the big thing. And they're kind of like just they're somewhere between Twitter and a message board, right? Because it's a specific community of people, but it's quick messages like Twitter. It's kind of like.
Right. It's like a chat. It's like a better version of a chat room in a way where like, normally in a random AOL wrestling chat room was you and 10,000 other random people just saying things, and nobody you couldn't really follow any conversation. It's bizarre that we ever use those because it was just like a madness. It was just like 1,000 people typing every single second. But what would happen sometimes with those chat rooms and different chat sites, and Prodigy in particular, and that's what Bob Ryder was a big part of is the early Prodigy wrestling chat rooms, is they were like hyper-focused community chat rooms. So it would be like, he would create this one chat room and it was only for, 50 people to really talk about this particular company or this particular wrestler or whatever. So that is kind of what Discord I see is where it is like a little bit more community-based. It's not really just kind of everybody all jumping in all at once and talking and things going nuts, but it has that feel a little bit more of more obviously more chat room than anything else, and Twitter obviously is not that. And to me, I Discord, I like our Discord a lot. I think there's some really good conversations that happen in there, but I do miss the days of message boards. That's really to me the sweet spot of pro wrestling discussion. To me, will be the message board days, and those are probably never coming back because people just don't have the patience to do it. But there was just something about the message boards that just always, and that's really, like you said, that's where I gravitated to pretty early on. Like I did a lot of news, random bullshit news websites and stuff like that. But then pretty early on, I want to say maybe for me, it was like 02, 03, somewhere in that range is when I started becoming a little bit more of a newsletter guy. And then I found, the Wrestling Observer board and other kind of message boards that talked about wrestling. And then from that point forward, that's kind of where I did my wrestling discussions and really consumed a lot of my wrestling media was on those message boards.
I think in the early days of Twitter, a lot of the old message boarders tried to treat Twitter like the message boards. And what we quickly found out was you can't do that. It's Twitter is just not built for that. Even with the 280 characters, and because the problem with Twitter is it's hard to have long form thoughts. And then anyone in the world can just jump into your conversation and derail it or troll you or send it in another direction. And it's just, and I think that in the last 2 or 3 years, I think all of the old message boarders have kind of learned how to use Twitter better and have gotten away from treating Twitter like a board because it's just, it can't be. So yeah, and I do think boards are dead. I just don't, like you're saying, people don't have the patience. The old message board days, you'd see a thread, you'd reply to somebody with a wall of text.
Yeah, you'd sit down, crack your knuckles, and then for the next 25 minutes, you crafted your argument or your response, and then, clicked reply and then waited. Yeah. And then we're like, all right, let's see. And then it might be another day until someone said something. And then you'd crack your knuckles and go, all right, here we go.
Rich, it might be 10 minutes. It might be 10 days when the person gets back to you. And it's like no one has the patience for that anymore. It's like you'd hit send, you'd go, you eat dinner, you fuck your girlfriend, you go to a movie. You come back home and you crack open the laptop and they still haven't replied. Rinse, repeat. You're waiting for this person to get back to you. And it would take months to have a conversation sometimes. There's threads on some of these message boards that are years long. I mean, they just, they go on forever and it's dead and it's gone. And I don't think it's ever coming back. But I do think that we've lost. You can get into a much better and deeper conversation on a board than you ever could on a Discord or on Twitter. I mean, it's not even close. But, time marches on. It's just and there's something coming down the pike that's going to kill Discords and Twitter. I mean, that's just the way it goes. I don't know what it is. Otherwise, I'd be a billionaire in a couple years. But something's coming that's going to make those things the old way of communicating.
Yeah.
So,
So that's all we know about Bob Ryder right now. We'll obviously, if anything other, the other news comes out or whatnot. But yeah, it has been pretty cool to see a lot of people. The people. I think he blocked us on Twitter, so we unfortunately have not really interacted with him personally in quite a while. And he did have a pretty contentious relationship with a lot of people as well. But no matter what it was, I mean, that was a dude who was always just all in on Impact Wrestling and TNA, and that's probably, he honestly blocked us because we probably said TNA sucked at some point, because there's many times where it sucked, so I'm sure he got mad about it or something. So.
I never had a single interaction with Bob Ryder personally on Twitter, on a board, so I don't know. It's probably like you're saying.
Yeah, it was probably in 2013 we said that some episode of TNA sucked and he got mad or something like that, which is, again, like, he was loyal to like just an unbelievable degree in TNA. And that was one of the quotes I was reading as they were talking about TNA guys, is like that he would just never take days off. They said, hey, go away for a few months to do your chemotherapy. And he would say, no, I'll work through chemo. I'll do. And it was just like, dude, it's Impact. It's TNA, man. Like, you can slack off. Like, look at this company. You could slack off. It's okay. And he just never, ever did from the moment he came in there. And it's like different power structures as well. Like, he was all in with the Jarretts when they were in charge. And then once they were kind of gone, he was all in with Dixie. And he was like, all right, cool. Let's, now you're my new leader and let's do this. Let's grow Impact. And I do remember him interacting with a lot of the kind of the weird, fringe TNA websites, your Meccas, all those sort of people. He'd reach out to those people because he realized, hey, you're the ones that are watching our TV and buying all of our stuff and doing all that sort of things. So, he got it. He got it from the moment he started, discussing the internet on, or discussing wrestling, on the internet in the 90s all the way through, until the 2010s. And then, the most recent years, he's been kind of out of the spotlight and more kind of in a backstage role for Impact, doing, travel and talent relations and that sort of stuff. But one of the constants is people just saying, how fiercely loyal he was to TNA, and our own Garrett Kidney who, of course, hosts the Wednesday War Games podcast here on the Voice Wrestling Podcast Network, and former Impact reviewer and, Impact super fan. He just said, he didn't say much, but he said, a lot of Impact's history died today with Bob Ryder. I mean, he's a guy who knows it all, been there since day one, and now he is no longer with us. So definitely sad.
He had it, like you said, he had his enemies, and I mean, if you dig around, there's a lot of sketchy stories about Bob Ryder and things like that too. Today's not the day for any of that.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, I personally, I don't know about you, I never interacted with the guy ever, not even a tweet. So I don't have any issues with him, and never had any issues with him. So but yeah, there's definitely, he was he was colorful. Let's put it that way. And leave it at that for now. But yeah, apparently he had cancer for a long time. So, not totally unexpected, but it's still, shocking at the same time, because this was a guy who was still working and involved with things, and, now he's gone.
So I did find a tweet that I think maybe he blocked us for.
Oh,
Is this one?
Oh, God. Maybe
not too
did
bad.
tweet at him.
We did. So it's Bob Ryder. This is June 30th, 2015.
Okay, we're going to look real bad here, aren't we?
No, not that bad. It's just perfect TNA here.
What's the date on this?
This is June 30th, 2015.
Okay.
So this is the last interaction we had. So this may have been the moment that it happened. So Bob Ryder tweets at Bustin' Open Radio. Yes, Joe is white knighting for his favorite radio show, Bustin' Open here. Just so you know. Bob Ryder writes, ridiculous that a guy with 282 followers who writes for a print mag with about that many readers got airtime to blast us. So I don't know who he's referring to there, but somebody that wrote for a print magazine went on Busted Open Radio and got mad about Impact, or said something about Impact or whatever. So I'm guessing this is you. This sounds like a Joe Lanza, but it might have been me. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's not. It says, as ridiculous as a company that sold 282 less tickets this year, throwing shade, you guys had a good week. Chill. So that's you telling them, hey, you haven't sold the ticket this year, so maybe don't. Because obviously, I think were they still in the Impact? I don't know what the hell was going on with Impact
okay,
at that time. So
that's definitely a Joe tweet. But why am I sticking my nose at Bob Ryder?
I have no idea. This is why. This is Twitter. This is why Twitter sucks. Is Bob Ryder has a beef with Busted Open and this guy, and you're just fucking scrolling on your phone and you see it and you say, I need to tell Bob Ryder he fucking sucks. And that's why Twitter stinks.
Absolutely, I am in the
you
wrong
had
here.
No reason to be in that conversation whatsoever. It didn't involve
None.
you. It involved Busted Open Radio, which you're not exactly like the biggest fan of either.
I kill them all the time.
Right, there was no reason for you to jump in and besmirch Bob Ryder, yet you did, because Twitter fucking sucks.
Well, they didn't sell a single ticket that year, so
you're not wrong.
I wonder who this writer was that with 280 followers.
Yeah, I'm really curious. I have no idea. I guess he was a Pro Wrestling Illustrated guy, but nobody seems to be. I don't know. Nobody seems to really say who it is. So
they cycle through so many people that. But who would Busted Open book? But that's a different era of Busted Open too. That was when it was LaGreca and the other host. Now the other guy's gone, and it's LaGreca, Mark Henry, Tommy Dreamer, and Bully Ray. I don't know who that could have been that came on the show. But the show is way worse now, by the way, with those three guys instead of Mark Henry is so bad at radio. I mean, the next interesting point that Mark Henry makes on the radio will be the first interesting point that Mark Henry makes on the radio. He just loves everything, and he's
I
one of those
see.
guys.
The only thing I ever see from Mark Henry on that show is aggregators, like we were talking about, making fun of, just being like Mark Henry, quotes like Survivor Series was awesome, what a great event. I'm just like, okay, that's cool. Thanks.
Mark Henry, Retribution is a hit. He just loves everything. He's one of those guys that doesn't put any, because he's still adjacent to the company.
Right,
so
exactly. Right. He always wants that next paycheck. So
yeah, I mean, he's not going to go out there and kill him. He just, and if you're a WWE fan, I guess you're into that. You want to listen to someone who likes what you like. So I kind of get it. And Bully Ray is bad at radio in a totally different way because he's just smarmy. And anytime a caller calls in, he has to put them down and is like, you haven't been in this business. So you can't tell me about. He says this business.
Yeah, well, I'm shocked that that's Bully Ray's demeanor and attitude to callers on a wrestling show. I'm stunned that he would be.
What do you know about this business? It's always, it's like, come on, guy. Like, look, I get it. You're going to get bad callers. I understand that, but it's like, and Dreamer, I don't know. He's not on enough to really have an opinion. But to show, I mean, look, it was never a great show, but it's gone. It's a lot worse now than it was. And I know people think I'm nuts, but the best host they ever had was Larry Dallas. The guy was just good at it. I mean, because he had opinions, whether you agreed or disagreed, he was compelling. At least he had something to say. Like, he would praise shit, but he would bury shit too. And he would ask interesting questions to get, instead of Mark Henry out there just fucking throwing roses at everything. I mean, Mark Henry is the easiest to please wrestling fan of all. Like, he doesn't dislike anything. I mean, it's boring. I don't know. How can you listen to something like that? You're not going to get that on this show.
No,
today.
hell no.
I promise you that.
Hell no. It's not many roses being thrown. Well, there'll be some roses thrown, but not in this next segment that we're going to talk about here, because we have to, Joe, talk about WWE Survivor Series 2020 Best of the Best. Apparently they added a tagline that I didn't hear about until the show started, which was the best of the best, where teams decided and wrestlers decided who was better, who was the best of the best. Was it Raw or was it SmackDown? And I don't know. Did we ever come to a conclusion who was the best of the best? I don't recall.
I will say this. I saw Mark Henry in a Cotton Patch Cafe in College Station, Texas about a year ago. I was in there eating lunch with TLB, and he may be a bad radio host, but he was in there with about 20 kids. And I think he was buying everybody. It was some kind of outing or get together or lunch gimmick or something. So they were handicapped kids, and it was a real nice scene. So I will put over Mark Henry for that. He was in there and looked like he was buying lunch for a group of special needs kids or something.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've heard he's an awesome dude. So maybe not a great radio host, but an awesome dude. So
I just think he stinks at radio.
Right.
I mean,
which is fine. Yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, that was a real cool scene, And I said to TLB, "Hey, that's the world's 26th strongest man, Mark Henry. Well, he finished in the Olympics 26th.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, something like that. But yeah, and, the WWE never stopped, because one tournament he went to, he had like the most combined, lift weights or something like that. So they, declared him the world's strongest man in perpetuity, apparently. So
yes.
He is still to this day the world's strongest man. So that's.
So she says, "Well, why don't you go say hello?" And I was like, I don't
know him.
I don't know him. And she's like, "But you have that whole thing that you do." I'm like, that doesn't mean I know that guy. I mean, like, in her mind, I must know all the wrestlers, So she's like, "Oh, go say hello, go have a chat." And I'm like, I don't know the fucking guy. I wouldn't know what to say.
Can you imagine Joe Lanza? Hi, hello, Mark Henry. My name is Joe Lanza from the Voices of Wrestling. How are you? Yeah. Big fan. Like, what are you gonna say? Yeah.
But she doesn't know. She thinks like I must know everybody. You know what I mean? Because I do this dopey show. She has no concept.
Right. So that was one time I was staying at a hotel where the Detroit Pistons were staying, and I get on an elevator with Ben Wallace. Well, I notice all the players are there, and I see like Ben Wallace walk into the elevator, and I'm walking into the elevator. I'm like, oh shit, like that's Ben Wallace or whatever. And she's like, oh really? And she doesn't know who Ben Wallace is, and she's like, oh okay, cool. Like this is pre-Michelle or whatever. So she's like, oh well, are you gonna talk to him? I'm like, what the hell am I gonna say? And then we get on the elevator. And she's like nudging me, like, "Go talk to him." I'm like, what am I going to tell Ben Wallace? Hey Ben, how are you?
Right, exactly.
He's this giant man. What am I going to say? If you want me to be honest, I think he fucking sucked when he came to the Bulls. You want me to tell him that I'm annoyed that he came to the Bulls and fucking stunk as the big free agent? Like, what am I going to tell Ben Wallace? Like, hey Ben, good defense, buddy. Like, what am I going to say to Ben Wallace? Like, I'm not going to bother this man. He's just trying to go to his hotel room and do whatever he's going to do for the rest of the night, which, given the clientele around the elevators and the hospital or the hotel bar that day, like he had plans for the night and I was not going to bother those plans. But what am I going to say to Ben Wallace?
I totally get it. Like, what conversation was I supposed to have with Mark Henry?
Well, she's like, well, you knew. She's like, well, you knew who he was. Like, he's a big, NBA guy. I'm like, yeah, I know who he is. That's fine. Like, we can leave it at that. Our relationship ends there. I've watched this man play basketball on television many times. That is it. That is all.
Well, some people are like into that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I'm not knocking that. I'm not knocking that, but it's like, I look at it the same way you look at it. Okay. Why would I approach Mark? I have nothing to say to this guy. We don't have any like mutual friends. I've never spoken to him in my life. I've approached wrestlers at wrestling shows if they have done our show. That I have done. Because I have back when we used to do interviews. We don't do interviews anymore. But when I would run into wrestlers at wrestling shows, not in public, that like we interviewed, I would go up to them at shows if they weren't busy or they were just meandering around. I'd say, hey, I'm Joe Lanza from Voice of Wrestling. We interviewed you a couple weeks back or a couple months back. And they'd go, oh, yeah. Well, and I would thank them for coming on, and that'd be that. But other than that, I don't know. I have nothing to say to these people. What am I supposed to say to Mark? Like you're saying, what am I supposed to say to Mark Henry in a restaurant? I got nothing. I got nothing
to say. And you just know, even if he's not rolling his eyes, inside he's like, what the fuck? Like, just let me just come here and get this food for these kids and have my meal or whatever. I've never wanted to bother. Outside, like a wrestling show, I think is kind of fair game, especially if you're like backstage or they're selling goods or what, you know what I mean? Like that's fine. That's their environment. They're there. That's cool. But yeah, when you see like an athlete or a wrestler or whatever at a restaurant or at an airport or whatever, like, dude, I'm not going to bother them. I
can't do it. Yeah, no. I mean, I'm sure he would have been pleasant.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. But just the awkwardness of like that conversation of like, what do I say? How do I end the conversation? The context of the after, oh, hey, you're Mark Henry, right? Or like, I have to do that move where he's like, yeah, I'm like, of course I'm Mark Henry. Look at me. I'm like a fucking, I'm the size of a bus. Yes, I'm Mark Henry. Like,
yeah. He's pretty distinctive. There's not a lot of people walking around that look like Mark Henry.
Right, exactly. It's like me and this girl and then Ben Wallace. It's like, I'm like, oh, are you Ben Wallace? He's like, yeah, I'm Ben Wallace. Like, come on, man. Like, I'm a former defensive player of the year in the NBA. Like, you know who I am. Like, so I have to do that move. You can't. Yeah, you got to do that because you can't just say, "Hey, Ben Wallace," and he's just like, "Okay, yeah, what?" Because then you're like pointing at him. It's so awkward. I'm getting awkward thinking about interacting with these people that I've never even interacted with. So.
Yeah, it's funny because normally I am awful at recognizing famous people in the wild. Like I'm terrible at it. Mark Henry obviously is an easy one, but like being in the restaurant business in a college town, you come across like there have been many times where I've had like a waitress run up to me and go, I can't believe it. Von Miller was here. And I'm like, I wouldn't know Von Miller if I tripped over him on the way to his table. Like, how would you, I never recognize like these generic looking famous people. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing. Like, every time I go to Vegas and I'm with somebody, they're like elbowing me. Oh, did you see who just walked by? And I'm like, no. And they tell me who it is. And I'm like, well, I would have never. Like, whatever. There's just, if I see them on TV, I know who they are. But when I see them in person, it's like this weird thing where I don't recognize.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm the opposite. And I recognize like very random people. And like very, because like we were in California a few years ago. And do you remember the show Cousin Skeeter? You probably don't. I think that's. But anyway, this is what I mean. It was like the actor from Cousin Skeeter was at this like restaurant where we were at, and I kept like looking at him and like in the way to be like, hey, where do I know this guy? Like I know this guy from somewhere, and I'm trying to think of it, and I'm trying to do whatever. And what ends up happening is, we get up in the line together, and like I'm not looking at him at this point. I'm not saying anything to him or whatever. And he just looks at me and he goes, Cousin Skeeter, that's where I'm from. And then he walks away, and I was like, yes, that is what a power move. What a power move by that guy, where he's like, people look at me and say, man, I know that guy, because he has a very distinct face. Like anybody that knows who I'm talking about, like I forget the guy's name. I'll look it up real quickly, but he a very distinct face. Like he was pretty famous for like a certain demographic of kids at a certain time or whatever. So I'm sure people look at him all the time and go, man, who is that guy? I know who he is. So much so that, yeah, he just walked up to me because he could tell that I kind of like had made like weird eye contact and just said, yeah, Cousin Skeeter. So like,
yeah.
Like, oh, all right, cool.
See, he must get it so much.
Robert Richard is his name. Robert Richard is his name. He was on, I don't know what else he was on besides Cousin Skeeter. So,
yeah, I never heard of that show. I have no idea what you're talking about. But was that some kind of is that a 90s kid show?
Yeah, it was a 90s kid show with like there was like a puppet or something. I don't know if it's technically a puppet. I don't know. So the puppet Twitter is going to get mad if I call it a puppet. I guess he's a puppet. I don't know. He's a Muppet like thing. So
the one I was kicking myself with one time is John Ratzenberger was in one of the restaurants once, and I didn't recognize him. That's Cliff Cleveland from Cheers. But the problem with him is it's like,
dude, in Las Vegas, like 45% of the people look like him.
No, this wasn't in Vegas. This was in College Station.
Oh, okay. But he does just look like a generic old white guy, though.
Yes, he put on weight. He doesn't look the same, and that one I was kind of kicking myself.
If he had the stash and like the postman's outfit, then I think you would nail it. But you know what I mean? But like, yeah, when he's just like, because I'm looking at pictures of him now. Yeah, that dude could knock on my door right now, and I would have no fucking clue that that's who that is.
He just does voice work now. Like he's the piggy bank in Toy Story. He does shit like that. So like he's never even on camera anymore. So like you wouldn't know what he looks like unless you Google him to see what he looks like now. So that one I think you can let me off the hook. I don't know if a ton of people would have recognized him, but in one of the restaurants I had I had a scout from the Cincinnati Reds come in because he was looking at a pitcher at A&M. And he came in to eat, and he was wearing like Cincinnati Reds, like fucking like a windbreaker with the Reds
classic scout outfit.
Yeah. So I struck up a conversation with him. I just mentioned that I was a Reds fan. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm looking at whatever pitcher he was looking at A&M," and I sat and talked to that guy for like an hour. It was fucking awesome.
Scouts rule. Scouts are the best people to talk to in the world. If you ever are at a minor league game and there's like 10 people there and there's a scout there, those are men that you can absolutely talk to. Because they're lonely, they probably will talk to you anyway because they're just on the road eating fucking, chicken tenders, from gas stations all day. But they will talk to you and great conversations with scouts. I've always had good conversations with them.
I would bring up players and he would just like shake his head. And I'd be like, what? And he goes, no spin rate. Forget it. He's not going to
they're great. They're awesome to talk to.
And I was like, wow.
They don't bullshit either. Yeah, they'll give you like insights. Like their job is to give these insights to their team, and they'll just give those insights up to just douchebag who talks to him at a game or talks to him at a restaurant. I love it. It's great.
Yeah. Well, that went off the beaten path.
That's it. WWE Survivor Series, best of the best. I don't even know how we got here.
They didn't even keep score this year.
They did. There was no scoreboard. They didn't do like Corey Graves being like, yeah, SmackDown got one, and high fives Michael Cole like they usually do, like that bullshit. That didn't happen. So the best of the best was discovered on this night. So I don't know. What'd you think? It was fine, I guess. I don't know.
Well, can I say this? Like, we constantly are getting memed on Twitter and whatnot for our negative WWE tweets, and it's like, what do people want us to say? People think that we're doing shtick.
No.
And we pound this company on purpose. And what would be the point of that?
No, our site makes way more money when they're good. I would rather they be great.
We would, if we were going to like do some kind of shtick for our benefit, okay, we would pretend that this shit is good.
Yes.
And we would try to appeal to these people. Because there's more WWE fans out there than anybody else. I would be trying to attract the Diva Stan accounts and the Roman Reigns roleplay accounts and all these fucking wacky people that give us a hard time on Twitter. I would try to appeal to them if I was attempting to do shtick. We do the opposite of that. What we do here is give our honest opinion and honest assessment of every pro wrestling company. And it isn't my fault that WWE is a steaming pile of irredeemable shit. So I'm going to say that, and I'm going to keep saying that. And I sent out a tweet a couple days after I watched Raw this week, because I watched another Raw, start to finish, Rich. That's my dedication level. And after
you don't have to do that. I don't know who's telling you to do that, but you don't have to do that.
But that's what I said. Look, it's like, I don't know what you want from me. I'm going to keep telling everybody that Raw is a giant pile of irredeemable shit until it stops being that. This isn't shtick. This isn't being a fucking hater. This isn't a grudge with the company. This isn't, they don't give us access because we don't want any. What access? I saw someone saying, oh, they must not give them access. What access do we want from them? I don't want any access from them.
I don't want to go to WrestleMania. Trust me. You guys can keep your fucking WrestleMania ticket. I couldn't wait to fly home before WrestleMania and not spend one more second in New York, and especially not spending 8 hours in a fucking rainy football stadium watching goddamn WrestleMania. Like, are you kidding? I don't want your free tickets.
We don't ask for interviews. It's like, I don't want it. There's nothing they could give me that I want in terms of access. Okay, so like that's utter nonsense. It's like people don't understand how this works. Again, it's not our fault. It's terrible. It's we come on here and talk about how terrible it is, and it keeps somehow getting worse. These Raws, Rich, I don't even think it's wrestling anymore. It's not. Whatever they do, it involves people who are professional wrestlers, but what they do isn't really wrestling. It's like a bad 3-hour like variety show, I guess, or something with a series of skits with like live action interceding everything. Like, it's not pro wrestling in any way. I think I said it last week. I mean, they've been telling us for 30 years that they're not pro wrestling. I think we should listen to them. They're telling us the truth. It's really bad. Whatever it is, it's awful. It's just almost impossible to watch at this point. And look, the pay-per-views are a little more tolerable. The TV shows are awful. They're just, you can't. It's just, I really don't understand the mindset of someone who looks forward to watching these shows every week. I'm not trying to be a dick. It's just, it's awful.
Yeah, somebody that willingly, I really want to tap in. And people have suggested at one point and I don't think it'd be good audio, because I just don't think we'd find anybody that'd be, reasonable or whatever. But, somebody has said like, oh, I'd love if you guys could interview like a guy who, watches, every episode of Raw and every episode of SmackDown and actually enjoys it. And it's just like, I don't really want to talk to those people because I really don't know, like, other than people that are kind of forced to do it for like websites or whatever. Like, I don't know the person that I would want to talk to that willingly sits down with their, thing of popcorn and goes, all right, WWE Monday Night Raw, let's go, and turns on their TV and smacks their hands together and gets in the recliner and pulls the seat back and goes, all right, let's see what trouble the Fiend's going to get into this week. Like, I don't know that I really want to talk to that person, because I don't know if that's really a person that would be A, good audio, and B, be like, any human being that I want to interact with. Again, I'm not trying to be like super mean, but it's just like, I just don't understand the mentality of somebody that would do that. So I don't think it would be good audio. I think like after 4 minutes, we would realize that we're on very divergent paths, and it would just go in terrible, terrible directions. So
no, I agree. I don't think it'd be good audio at all. They would feel like they were being attacked. We would, no matter how polite we were, they would feel like they were being attacked.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
We would feel like this person has to be a fucking insane person. I mean, it's just, it's got to be people who, they're not watching to see wrestling, right? They're watching to see whatever this is.
Right, they're WWE Universe fans. They're WWE Sports Entertainment fans, or you can't even call them fans. They're members of the universe, and that's it. Because you can't be a wrestling fan and enjoy WWE. I really truly believe that, and that's and again, I'm not trying to be mean if you are one of those people. I just really, 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 truly cannot believe that you like pro wrestling and then also like what you're getting from them right now, because it's just like you said, it's not that. It is sports entertainment. It is something completely different.
It's just awful. The Raw, I mean, that opening segment to Raw is just with the 5 of those guys taking turns with the horrible scripted lines, and then you got the Fiend and Alexa Bliss killing a puppet frog, and you've got the New Day finish, which looked like a botch, but it turns out maybe it wasn't a botch and it was on purpose. And did you see that whole fiasco with the New Day versus the Hurt Business?
I did see that, yeah, and I couldn't. People were kind of arguing over what was actually going on, and I don't know that I necessarily 100% know either what was going on with that thing. I
thought the ref was calling it like a shoot and called for the count out, but it wasn't supposed to be a count out, but the ref called it like a shoot.
Right, and that happens a lot. That does. I mean, that because WWE referees are told to, no matter what happens, call it like a shoot. Call it naturally, and if something fucks up, we'll fix it later. But yeah, so I'm guessing like you said that's what happened, but it is tough to say exactly.
Well, I don't know, because then I thought MVP heads up tried to save it by shit talking New Day and saying, "Get back in here and finish this." And then New Day didn't know what to do. They're backing up the ramp.
Yeah, they look like heels. Yes, they're walking away from the action. So it was.
No, we that's it. That's it. That was a count. They didn't So to me, it felt like the ref called it like a shoot because there was confusion, and it seemed like the only person in control of the situation was MVP, right? But then they did come back and finish the match, and it's like, well, that's not typically the kind of thing. When does WWE ever do a double count out? Well, they did one the night before, I guess, in the women's elimination match.
True.
But they don't typically do double countouts. And it's like, but then I saw some chatter that, no, it wasn't the ref calling it like a shoot. This was by design. It's like, well, why then? Everyone just looked awful. It would have been a better story to tell everybody that it was a wrestler botch and the ref just counting them out. It's just everything on, and then you say that the show's bad, and you'll have 3 or 4 people hop in and tell you, yeah, but Riddle versus Sheamus was excellent. I'm like, okay.
Right. These 9 minutes of these 3 hours were really good. So
yeah, it's like, I agree, but that's 10 minutes of a 3 hour and 15-minute show.
Right.
That's it's like not everything's gonna be the worst thing I've ever seen, but when 95% of it is, and a lot of this is the worst shit you'll ever see. That Alexa Bliss versus Nikki Cross match, I mean, what are we doing here? What is that even? Who is the target for that? Who enjoys that? I don't understand how anyone could possibly enjoy something like that. It's just weird. And I don't know. But we're not reviewing Raw, we're reviewing Survivor Series, so I don't know. You want to take us through this, baby?
Yeah, let's do it. So we'll end with Taker's final farewell because I have some thoughts about that. But we'll start right at the top here because I think everything is of pretty much equal importance on the show because there were no stakes and nothing mattered. So
I am going to try my best to be fair. I mean, it's like I'm going to try to be fair, but it's not my fault that most of this is fucking terrible. I can't. So, I don't know. Let's just do it.
Let's do it. All right. So, we'll start out with the Raw versus SmackDown Elimination Tag Match, the men's side here. Team Raw, AJ Styles, Braun Strowman, Keith Lee, Riddle, and Sheamus. They defeat Team SmackDown, Jey Uso, Kevin Owens, King Corbin, Otis, and Seth Rollins. They do a clean sweep. Is that right? All 5 of those guys survived. Yeah. Just like, what was the team that did it in the Ultimate Challenge Survival Series? What was it, Survivor Series 90, I want to say? That had the Ultimate Challenge, and there's that one, a pretty famous one where everybody survived, but now I'm blanking on who it is. So
there were many clean sweeps. The Visionaries, I believe, pulled off a clean sweep.
That might be the one. I think I'm thinking of the Visionaries. Yeah, the Hercules, Roma, Warlord, and Martel.
Yeah. It was Jake Roberts, the Bushwhackers, Jake Roberts, the Rockers, and
I just pulled it up. Let me see if you can get it. You're 3 out of 4 already.
Tell me who was on the other team. Power and Glory.
So it was Power and Glory. So Hercules, Roma, Martel, and the Warlord.
So who was Warlord feuding with? Because that would be the 4th guy. Because Martel was with Jake, and Power and Glory was with.
I don't remember how this guy was involved with these.
So
other
maybe
guys,
Warlord and the other guy were just randomly inserted.
I think so.
This feels like a Tito Santana spot.
You're close, but no, it is not Tito Santana.
I was going to say, but doesn't it feel like a
Tito
does. Santana
Yeah,
spot?
we're just like, we need a guy to fill in, and it's a perfectly competent, perfectly cromulent, babyface Tito Santana who could just fill in, have a good little 17-minute match, get in there, do some hot spots. But
I'm going to be kicking myself, but who was it?
It was Jimmy Snuka.
It's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah, so that was a clean
right
sweep.
out of his mind, Jimmy Snuka in 1990. So
I think you're thinking of Ultimate Warrior, Kerry Von Erich, and the Legion of Doom. Didn't they clean sweep Demolition and Mr. Perfect? Or did they not?
I don't think they did. Because I think maybe you're right, Mel. Maybe they did. Yeah, you're right. No, they didn't. No. Half the dudes got disqualified. So this was the year where they did the Ultimate Survival thing where, everybody came back.
Oh, yeah.
And 5 of the guys I think Demolition and LOD got disqualified. They were fighting for a little bit too long. The referee's like, all right, you're out of here. That's enough of that.
That was Warrior, Hogan, and Tito against the Martel team. That was the same year.
Yeah.
And Tito only got through because they needed someone to eliminate.
Right.
Right. So yeah, that you're right. That wasn't the sweep. But I'll tell you what was a sweep. Slaughter, Hacksaw Duggan, and whoever they teamed with against Boris Zukov. This had to be 91. This was probably 91. That was a sweep too. It was. Help me out here. You pulling
I'm
that one
gonna
up?
pull it up. Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up right now. People just heard me fuck up and
That was after
and
Slaughter
mistype it.
turned. That was when Slaughter turned face after the Iraqi deal.
Yeah. He's
And it was Slaughter, Duggan. I feel like I'm on 5-star match game here.
you're doing all right though. You got 2 out of 4 here.
Slaughter, Duggan. Were they teaming with the Bushwhackers there? in
They
that
were
spot?
not. They were with. Do you want me to spoil it for you?
Yeah.
The Texas Tornado and Tito Santana, of course.
And they beat Zukov. I think Big Bully Busick was supposed to be on that team, but
Actually,
ended
Zukov
up-
was not there. I was kind of surprised too. I thought you were right as well, but he is not. It's a very strange team here. It is. Do you want me to give you the guys?
bunch of dudes with mustaches, right?
A bunch of guys with mustaches, yes, but not the guys you're thinking of. Berserker,
Oh,
Skinner, Colonel Mustafa, and Hercules.
See, that definitely wasn't the original
I don't
intended
think so.
team.
No, yeah, that's.
At least I'm pretty sure Big Bully Busick was supposed to be on that team but left the company. Is this 91?
This is 91. Yeah, it's November 91.
I've got to know now. So let me see if I could find this. Who the original team was. So sometimes you see the promo pics with the original dudes.
Because yeah, Berserker, Colonel Mustafa, Hercules, and Skinner does not sound like a pretty natural team. So,
Well, Mustafa definitely was supposed to be on the team
Sure.
because that was opposite Slaughter. There's a replacement in there somewhere because I know I'm not wrong, and maybe two because I don't know why I kept saying Zukov. But Big Bully Busick for sure. Usually Wikipedia has the replacements, but they don't in this case. So that's disappointing. Because there's been a lot of replacements in Survivor Series history, especially some of the early ones where Scott Casey got in the mix because I think Brian Blair left the company. That very common for that to happen. But I don't know. Some listener will sort it out for us. But yeah, this was a clean sweep. That Slaughter match was a clean sweep, though, correct?
yes, yeah. They pinned 4 straight pinfalls, 15 minutes in and out with the Slaughter team getting the win. So
yeah, and I'm sure there's been others over the years. I'm sure there's been some. Oh, wasn't that CM Punk DX?
Oh, you're right. Yeah, what was that? Survivor
Jeff Hardy.
Series 09 maybe?
So it was
somewhere
Punk-
around that range. Yeah, it was Punk, DX, the Hardys, I would think.
Or no, just Jeff.
Or just you're right, just Jeff.
And it was Mike Knox.
Let me see if I can figure out exactly.
It was Knox because they totally buried him because Triple H and Shawn Michaels did the thing where they were like, who is this guy? And then he super kicked him and they just beat him in like 10 seconds. And they acted like they didn't know who he was, which is a typical WWE thing to do. But I can't remember who else was on that team, but I think that was a clean sweep also.
Yeah, I can't figure it out, and trying to figure out what year of Survivor Series that was is proving difficult. I could pump up, I can get like exactly 91 and 1990, in seconds, but yeah, I can't figure out which one was.
Had to be 2009, right?
That's what I thought, but it doesn't show those guys. But I swore that was who it was. So
maybe 2008 because it was WWE CW, and that would have been 08. Let me see.
Yeah, OH shows Team HBK because there's no Triple H here. So I was kind of surprised by that too. So Triple H was against Edge and Vladimir Kozlov for the WWE Championship. So he was out. And then I went to 2007, and I don't think it was that either because that was Jeff Hardy, Kane, Rey Mysterio, and so I don't know what the hell it was. So
could it have been as late as 2010?
Because then you have the Nexus coming in, so I don't think it's them either. So
it can't be 2010.
So this is like dude, I don't know what dude. I promise you're correct. I know that this is a real thing. I cannot for the life of me find this.
It's a real match.
I know. I swear. I knew it happened as well, but I can't find it. So
we're not Mandela affected.
I maybe we are. I don't know.
Because was it
2006. That's a lot earlier than I thought it was.
Okay, all right. It's
2006.
06.
Punk, Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy, Shawn Michaels, and Triple H. So it was both Hardys.
It was 5 guys.
Yeah,
okay.
Against Team Rated RKO. Edge, Mike Knox, as you mentioned, Randall Orton, on one of I think the third of his best runs he ever had in his career. Johnny Nitro and Gregory Helms was Team Rated RKO. So
I wouldn't have gotten Gregory Helms if this show
in 8 hours.
Yeah.
I could have said, Joe, name every member, every WWE guy you could ever think of ever, and I don't think you'd ever land on Gregory Helms in the 2006 Survivor Series as a member of Team Rated RKO ever. I think
with enough time, I would have come up with 9 of those 10, and never in my life come up with Gregory Helms. I mean, what the fuck? And that was like not Hurricane. That was Gregory Helms.
That was and then he was a serious guy. He was Gregory Helms.
Yeah, serious heel, Gregory Helms. But yeah, there's another clean sweep. So there have been many, and I'm sure we're missing a bunch, like in the modern era where we don't give a fuck anymore.
Where I don't care anymore. So yeah.
So like this one here, we will forget about.
Oh, in 2 years, if there's another clean sweep in Survivor Series, we will never ever remember that 2020 Team Raw had a clean sweep.
Rich, next week I'll forget about
I honestly forgot until I wrote in my notes, clean sweep, remember, in my notes to let me know that I should point out that they did a clean sweep. So this match was a match. It existed. I don't know, do you have any thoughts? They wrestled for 19 minutes.
Well, they're doing the thing again where, like, when people are going to get eliminated because they come into the ring and clean house and do their
right. They're a house of fire for 10 seconds, for 5 minutes, and then they get pinned and eliminated immediately.
So these matches are even lazily booked. Like, they're booked for 12-year-olds. Because it's like exactly whenever you eliminate. And look, they've done that at various points in history. Like some of the older Survivor Series were the same way. A guy would come in and clean house, and you're like, oh, he's going to get eliminated.
Oh yeah, Tito Santana was perfect for it. He'd get the hot tag, he'd a Reba, he'd go boom, 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 drop kick, and you just knew he was going to turn around and just eat a fucking tombstone or something like that in 2 seconds.
They do this in Royal Rumbles a lot too, where a guy will go on a hot run in the Royal Rumble, and it's like, oh, well, he must be getting thrown out. It's like, because they want to give people shine before they get, eliminated or pinned in one of these kinds of matches. But, it makes for a poor watch. But, all right, so Raw is on the board, Rich.
Raw is on the board. 1-0 over Team Blue, Team SmackDown there. So.
As you know, the stakes are high here. So
absolutely, yeah. We have, believe it or not, which is this is when we say this company is irredeemably terrible, is then the next night on Raw, they get these dorks in the ring and they decide, oh yeah, well, who gets the title shot now because Team Raw won. And it's like, wouldn't that have been an interesting thing to point out that, like, hey, Team Raw's going to, the winning members of this team will get title shots after this. I feel like that's something I would have brought up in the build to Survivor Series, but they,
look, we talked about,
they didn't. They have captains. Who's the captain? The captain didn't mean anything because they ended up, I don't know.
They have no interest in making anything more interesting. It's just because it's low-level drivel for the dumbest among us. That's what this company's for.
Like, they did it right. Like, because if you had told people that, hey, the winning teams all get title shots, and then they have to decide, amongst the survivors that they'll have a mini tournament afterwards, like, that's kind of cool. That's kind of interesting. I mean, it's not going to make it good, but at least it gives it something. Whereas, like, this was just like, hey, these matches mean absolutely nothing. And then on Raw, oh, they meant something actually now. It's like, oh, perfect. Great. Now is when you promote the show you had last night. Perfect. Great idea.
They don't try. This stuff is for people with Seth Rollins in their avatar. That's what this is for.
Yeah. People that tell you when they got liked by Liv Morgan in their Twitter profiles. So
yes, exactly. What was next?
Next show, non-title SmackDown versus Raw tag match here. The Street Profits, they defeat the New Day in the Battle of Champions on different brands. I don't know. It's just decent. I like this match. Probably my favorite match of the entire night. I don't know.
Yeah, probably the best match of the night, but nothing special. It was okay. I thought New Day worked hard. I thought Angelo Dawkins looked good on the hot tag, which is something he's getting really good at. I thought Montez Ford, as usual, looked really good with his high spots. So, yeah, I like this. It was a nice little tag match. Was it the best match in the show? It probably was, because I didn't really love the main event, as anyone who follows us on Twitter might have figured out this week. But I don't know what you thought of the main event yet, so that's interesting because I don't think we've talked about this, and I haven't seen your opinion. But yeah, this was probably the best match in the show because I didn't think Sasha Asuka was that great.
No, we're going to get to it when we get to it. I was really disappointed by that. And like in a vacuum, that match might have been better, but I went in with pretty high expectations given, the output that those two have had this year, the output that just thinking, okay, cool. It's like a match between you two and presumably you'll have time. And yeah, I did not love that match whatsoever. So this one, I think it's not the highest of praise to say it was my favorite match of the show, let me tell you that, but it was, I thought it was pretty decent, a lot of good action, and it was well paced, I thought, as well. So I mean, yeah, I'll give him credit here. I thought it was a pretty damn good match, despite the fact that I have no reason to give a shit whatsoever about who won or who lost.
That's the problem.
Whatever, so.
You know what? That is the problem. The problem with a lot of these matches, and I noticed that might be part of the disconnect, is I couldn't fucking care less who wins any of these matches ever. And that's going to hurt your enjoyment. All right? So we have to be fair here.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you're a big New Day fan, you're on the edge of your seat here because you want them to win the match.
I mean, are you?
Right?
I mean, I guess. All right. I guess you are. Yeah.
If you're invested in the WWE title for some reason, despite, a million reasons not to be invested in it, you're going to be really into, Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre on Raw. Whereas I'm not going to be into it at all because I couldn't give a fuck whoever holds these titles. So that's going to help your enjoyment. And I think that's going to play into when we talk about the main event. But really, all of the matches up and down the card. I thought this was a nice little tag match. 3 1/4, 3 1/2. Is that fair? That's what this was, right? 3 1/2 if you're being charitable.
That's exactly. Yeah, I'm 3 1/4. Exactly where I'm at. Which is to me my match of the night. Which maybe not high praise, but.
This was a nice little pay-per-view mid-card match where everybody looked good. The problem is, if you put meaningful stakes on this thing and built up a proper feud, maybe we would have liked it more. Even the exact same match, maybe we would have liked it more.
Well, and I think the biggest thing for me, at least in my enjoyment of really any wrestling, is, like you said, the investment in who wins and loses, and the investment in the future of the wrestler and the future of the story or whatever. And you're bringing up right there, well, Angelo Dawkins is getting better at this and Montez Ford is great at this and Kofi was good. It's it doesn't matter. Montez Ford is never going to get pushed. They're never going to say, hey, Montez, you're great. You should be the champion. And it's never going to be built up in a way that's going to make you feel like, oh man, I watched that one match in Survivor Series and it was clear that he's going to be a future star. And yeah, if they just keep pushing him or whatever, he's going to, it's no, nothing ever matters. It doesn't, who cares? Big E presumably should have been pushed, and he's still fucking out there wearing his Gears of War shit and gyrating his hips and shit. And it's who cares? All these people just, they're on a fucking treadmill going to nowhere until one day Vince McMahon decides, now you're the champion. And the guy is the champion, then he loses. Then it's it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't. So you telling me how Angelo Dawkins, which I agree, Angelo Dawkins had a good, he's getting better at hot tags, and Montez Ford is great. It doesn't fucking matter. So it's just it's hard to get invested in that level. So.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, look at New Day. They've been in this same spot for 6 years, and that's Street Profits will be in the same space. 6 years from now, they'll be in the same thing.
Yeah, maybe they'll get a little title run, a little month. Kofi got his little run here and there, and then he's right back now to throwing pancakes. And they tell us, it's I loved on the commentary. They're like, oh, Big E finally gets to reunite with the New Day after the brand split. It's that was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh my God, finally the New Day is back together. It's okay, it was it's been less than a month, but all right, yeah, finally they're back. I know everyone's been clamoring to finally once again see the New Day, so there you go.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It was a nice little mid-card match. I enjoyed it.
All right, non-title Raw versus SmackDown, the U.S. champion versus the Intercontinental champion. Bobby Lashley defeats Sami Zayn. The match went about 8 minutes, but most of the time was Sami Zayn trying to get disqualified. On purpose.
Yeah, it's one of the worst things I've ever seen in this
so bad. Terrible. It's so bad. It's
horrible. And then the finish. How bad was the finish?
Oh, God.
He trips over MVP on purpose, and then he's screaming for a DQ, and it's just
Yep.
I mean, again, this is one of those things where how can anyone genuinely enjoy this? I mean, is there someone sitting home on a Sunday night just belly laughing at these
Oh my God, he tripped over him, but he wants to get disqualified. I can't believe it.
You've got to be a complete simpleton to enjoy
you're institutionalized. You are absolutely in a facility that you cannot leave if you find that funny.
Right. Yeah, it's just terrible. Irredeemably bad. Not funny at all. just one of the worst things I've seen. You know? And if it wasn't for the mimosa match, these are all like worst match of the year contenders.
Yeah, right.
I'm not getting off
that mimosa match. That's going to be you have not. There's been a lot of people that have tried to have worse matches, but nobody can quite meet the mimosa match for you. So I appreciate the take, because I agree that match was fucking trash. So I will tell you right now, as AEW is going on, they are building to an Abaddon Hikaru Shida match. So we might have a contender. We might have a contender before the year's out.
You motherfuckers asked for it, and you're getting it. You wanted more women's matches.
Yeah, you want more shitty women's matches? You got it. Yeah.
Enjoy your Abaddon.
Let's use bad talent in big spots. Yeah, perfect. Great.
Yeah, we need more of that. Yeah.
All right. Non-title Raw versus SmackDown match here oh god, what was the count here? Well, one sec. Sorry. Okay. So actually, I don't remember. I don't know who brand.
Well, don't worry.
I don't know what brands these people are on.
That's another problem.
I was gonna say, well, the Street Profits add 1 to I don't remember. So I think.
Well, I can tell you, Rich, they finished tied at the end of the night.
Oh darn! All right. Well,
but no one kept score. Like, you had to do that yourself, because they didn't bother. Like, they put no meaningful stakes on any of this. On any of it. It's just, it really is amazing. Like, why? I don't know. Let's not repeat the same rants.
Yeah, anyway,
what do we have next?
Sasha and Asuka, decent.
I didn't love this.
I didn't love it. I thought it was going to go a little bit higher than it did, and it just kind of, it ended flat, and it just never, you kept the entire match, like it went about 13 minutes or so, or 10, 13, and I think, like, yeah, the entire time I'm just kind of waiting for it to kick to that next gear, and it was just kind of over. And yeah, I don't know. It didn't. Both these women are capable of so much better, especially against one another. And yeah, it just didn't. I don't know. They were just felt like they didn't feel like they were on like 2 different pages, or that it was like sloppy or anything. It just, I don't know. It just didn't click with me.
They tried something a little different in this too, and it just, I don't know. I didn't think it was that great. But a nice little 3-star match, I guess. I expect better out of these two when they get in the ring. It was fine. Gentlemen's 3. What do you call it if it's women? Ladies 3?
Yeah, the ladies 3, I think.
Gentle ladies 3?
Yeah, I like that. Classy.
All right.
I think that's Jerry Evans, who writes for the site. They call it Classy Ladies 3, so we'll go with that.
Oh, okay. I didn't mean to steal the gimmick. Same wavelength there, then. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, Classy Ladies 3. All right. Well, a match that definitely is not going to get a Classy Ladies 3. Raw versus SmackDown elimination tag match here. The women's Team Raw, Lacey Evans, Lana, Nia Jax, Peyton Royce, and Shayna Baszler versus Team SmackDown, Bayley, Bianca Belair, Liv Morgan, Natalya, and Ruby Riott. Oh my God, this match. Oh, where to even begin? No, I didn't like it at all.
Really?
No.
Yeah, this was one of the biggest piece of shit you'll ever see.
This was, and I don't even know where to start. So we'll start at the top with the thing that everybody kind of points out, the Lana story, where for people that did not watch this, you're welcome, and good for you. We watched it so you didn't have to. Essentially, Lana has backdoored her way into this team. She sucks, but we're supposed to cheer for her or something. I don't exactly know the story, but whatever. So she's a terrible pro wrestler, both in real life and in storyline, and we're supposed to, root for her again for some unknown reason. So she backdoors her way into this team. She joins in. She tags in at a point in this match, and nobody wants her to tag, and everybody goes, "Oh, damn! Oh, she tagged in." And then she had like a perfectly competent 2 minutes in the ring, tagged out, and then Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax yelled at her to get out of the ring and don't tag in again. So she stood on the ring steps and quivered like a 9-year-old the rest of this match. So
yeah,
it was so bad. And when I say quiver like a 9-year-old, I mean like if you have children, go tell them that Santa doesn't exist or whatever, or that they're not getting Christmas presents this year or whatever. And that she stands on the ring ropes, gets the boo-boo lips, the protruding bottom lip, and just puts her hands together, in front of her, and just, fake cries, but not really cries, just kind of like, she's in timeout and whimpers for the next 20 minutes or so. It's so...
like a scolded puppy.
Yeah.
And on the ring steps. Yeah. Standing there on the ring steps. I have a 4-year-old who does this in the house when I take a toy away and give it to the other kid. It's like, whimpering. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, all shtick aside, this isn't pro wrestling. I don't know what this is, but it's not pro wrestling. It's just derivative bullshit. And it's like you said, why are we supposed to be rallying behind this person? The idea behind the story is she's being bullied by Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. So it's like you're supposed to be able to relate to this, right? But it's like, this is not good pro wrestling story. This would be good for maybe a movie or a television show, which is what they think that they are.
But I think what would be better is if like the person bullied like proved that they were good.
Well, if it was done well, this would be the kind of story that you would do, right? But it clearly isn't being done well. It's like, yeah, why are you going to get behind her? It's like, yeah, because like you're saying, she didn't prove anything. She won on a bullshit double count out. She backed into it. And that's where they've lost their touch in terms of story. And this is why they can't get anyone over, because they've lost their touch in terms of what really connects with people. Like, they think people are going to think this is like a hoot and it's funny, and they're going to, no, it's like in pro wrestling, you're not going to get someone over like that because no one's going to believe in them. You have to be able to, okay, if this were a territory or a promotion that was run well, do you know where this story would go? The ace baby face of the promotion would kick both of their asses for Lana. And that's where this story would be going. I don't even know who to use as the example here, because who's the champion? The champion on Raw is Asuka.
Yeah.
And actually that's kind of what they're doing, because on Raw the next night, Lana faced Asuka and then the other two came down and it turned into a tag match. But they'll fuck it up. Like, the story should be Lana's getting picked on by these two, and Asuka, because she's the babyface hero, steps in and beats up the fucking bullies, because the money's in Asuka, not Lana. Lana's never going to be a star, especially being presented this way, right? And but the other problem that people are ignoring with this match is Bianca Belair should have won.
Yes.
Like, she's eliminating everyone, and that was great. Like, in the old days, Vince would have booked this for Bianca Belair to pin all of these people and win the match, and he would have tried to make a star in one night, right? But instead, she ends up not getting over either, because she loses via the double count out, and it ends up being about Lana instead of Bianca Belair.
Right.
It should have been all
it's the
about
classic, like, oh, we're protecting her by not having her lose. And it's like, no, but just have her win, though. It's so
yes.
Nobody gets over by being protected. People get over by winning.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, they've lost that. They've lost that completely. Yeah.
So
they
it's
just
like
protect, but it's like, it doesn't matter if you protect them. Win. Just win matches. That's the way everybody in wrestling history has gotten over, is by winning matches, not by not losing. And that's the thing they've lost. They're obsessed with people not losing, and completely lost sight of winning and how important winning is. I don't get it. I don't understand it.
I guarantee you, though, in that room, they think they got Bianca Belair over, because she did a couple of flips and some fancy moves and looked good for a few minutes in the match. What they don't realize is they should have just finished the job.
Right. Oh, and instead we're here talking about the Lana quivering and then winning by a double count out, as opposed to leading off with, oh my God, Bianca Belair went in there and eliminated everybody and then won the match and stood tall and all that. Yeah, it's an easy story to tell. But yeah, they think that, oh, well, she didn't lose, so we protected her, and yeah, she looked good in it, so it's fine. But yeah, it doesn't matter if the lasting image of this match is Lana in the middle of the ring, with tears running down her eyes, celebrating in the ring, steps, while, Michael Cole and Corey Graves go, what? Oh my God, what did she do? How did that happen? Oh, why? It's just like, oh my God.
And I'll give you another example why it's pointless to invest any of your thoughts or emotions or anything into this company. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler are bullies, right? They're bullying Lana. They've been putting her through tables for 9 straight weeks. Nia Jax was on the other side of a bullying storyline just like 2 years ago. Remember?
Oh, you're right. I forgot about that.
Like, she was being bullied for being fat, and who was it? Alexa Bliss that was the one?
Yeah, it was Alexa. Alexa that was calling her fat and stuff. So
yeah, and it's like, okay, there's no consistency here. You're just it's the mind erase thing we always talk about. And it's why when you watch this company long enough, you're smart enough not to invest in anything, because none of it fucking matters. Nia Jax should never be on the opposite side of a bully storyline again, because her whole thing was she was bullied. Like, she should be the advocate for but there's never any long-term connective tissue to anything they do. I mean, you could forget it. That was years ago. Like, if it happened 2 months ago, they would ignore it, let alone 2 years ago or whenever it was. So again, why care about anything? This goes back to your point about Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins. Why care about anything they're doing now? Because each pay-per-view cycle, they can press the reset button on anybody at any time. And they tell you that your investment was a waste of time. So if you're like us and you've been watching this company your whole life, you know that now. And that's why we're so cynical. And that's why we hate it. And that's why we pick on it. Because it's shit.
Another thing I wanted to point out about this match, and I'm curious what your thoughts were, is I saw a lot of like, oh my God, yeah, there was a lot of stuff, and yeah, there was some weird stuff, but oh my God, the work in this was incredible, and the women were busting their asses or whatever. I thought this was the most, just the best, this one of the sloppiest matches I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. Everybody fucked up everything. Nobody was anywhere near anybody. Everybody's kicks missed by 10 feet. Everyone's punches missed by 15 feet. Every move felt like it was so regimented and so practiced. And it was like, I understand. It had the concept of a great wrestling match. It had the concept of a good match. But man, was it just the most just choreographed wrestling match I think I've ever seen in my entire life. In terms of every spot that happened, just felt like it was just practiced down to the second, and just, oh my God, I could not believe how many things were fucked up in this match. I'm not trying to pick on. I mean, they were very ambitious in this match, really, to the point where like fucking Lacey Evans is doing a top rope Spanish fly. You know what I mean? Like, very ambitious, but I think to its detriment, where a lot of the stuff just ended up looking really, really clunky.
Yeah, Spanish fly spot looked good, but yeah, a lot of it. Well, there's a lot of shitty wrestlers in this match. I mean, Nia Jax is a terrible pro wrestler.
She's horrendous.
She's just not good at this.
There was one spot that I was very smartly by Bianca Belair. It lets you know that she's going to be a future star. Is Nia was supposed to do something to her, and Bianca just backed up and then fell out of the ring without Nia touching her. Like, just you know what? I'll take myself out of the ring. Like, Nia grabbed her by her hair, and like Bianca just like went, well, I'll just take the bump on my own. So I don't know what it was supposed to be. Maybe just she was going to toss her against the ropes, but Bianca was smart enough to say, you know what? I'll just roll out on my own. No problem. I can handle this.
In a place where they can identify stars and they know how to make them and they still do a good job of that, I would say Bianca Belair is going to be a big star. I mean, she should be, but do you have any confidence she will be?
God, no.
I have none. I have zero. I mean, she should be being pushed right now. And their idea of a push is just like you're saying, don't lose. Trade wins. That's their idea of a push. Protect everyone so that no one gets over. So I have no confidence that she'll become a star. She should be, but she probably won't. Or they'll present her as a star and, she'll be on top of Raw when it's doing 1.4 million viewers and she won't really be a star.
And then we get to our main event here, non-title, Raw versus SmackDown. Roman Reigns, the head of the table, versus Drew McIntyre, the guy who has a sword. I love how now in Drew McIntyre's music, I hope you notice this, ching, 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 you hear the sound of a sword being sharpened.
Yeah. His magic
music goes on.
Yeah.
I love it. Just to let you know that this man has a sword, and if you don't know that, here's a sword noise to inform you that this man has a sword.
Well, it's like Ricochet. You hear a bullet bouncing off walls now.
Right, in case you didn't know what Ricochet meant or what it is. Right. Here's literally the noise of a ricochet, so you know that Ricochet is going to happen. Yes, we got Drew McIntyre goes ching, 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 and then
the bagpipes, and then then he sticks his magic sword his magic fireball summoning sword into the stage, to make him come off like a complete cornball. I mean, I watched this match because I was watching football, and I was watching this match unfold, on Twitter as I was watching the game, and the timeline was very split. There were people calling this a match of the year. There were people calling this just, shit. There were people who were calling it a match of the year, but then hated the finish and then decided it was shit. So it was all over the place, and I was real curious to watch this because these are two guys, I think. Now, look, didn't they have a terrible WrestleMania match a couple years ago?
Yeah, that was kind of funny when in the build-up there, people are thinking, oh my God, it's Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre. This is a big-time match. And it's like, yeah, they had a match like 2 years ago. It was fucking terrible. So
fucking stunk.
It was Roman's like return or whatever, but yeah, it was fucking garbage. So
yeah, so but outside of that, these are two guys where I'm like, all right, I might like this when I watch it later. And then I watched it, and I don't know, man. I was bored to tears watching this match. I thought it was boring. I thought there was just nothing happening. The big spot in the match was supposed to be the table spot, and the table didn't break, so they had to do it twice. So they both looked like absolute geeks when they had to redo the table spot. And then it was, you had the shitty fucking heel finish. But look, it's like you got to protect everybody, right? You can't just have Roman beat him for whatever reason, and you're not going to beat Roman now, which you shouldn't. You should not beat Roman.
No. He needs to win every match he has for a long time, and just win them. Just fucking win the match. Who cares?
Yeah. But they didn't want to beat Drew either. So instead of, I don't know, not booking the match.
You book this shit. It's fucking fake. You can do whatever you want.
Okay. You do this bullshit finish. And then it's like, so I don't know. I mean, I just thought it was a match. And then you have people saying like, oh, this was a Haas fight of the highest order. It's fucking great. This was 5 stars. This was 4.5 stars. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I didn't see it that way. And what I want to ask you, because I have no idea what you thought of this. You have yet to give an opinion that I've seen on this match. Am I just being cynical because I'm so disconnected from this company? Was this some kind of great Haas fight? And am I the one that's out to lunch? What did you think of this?
So here's the best way I can kind of put it. Is in their minds and in the structure of what a good WWE pro wrestling main event should be, this match was good. It had every single characteristic that you have from every one of your big time, a match that they in their minds think this is a good match. This is a great match. This is a great main event. We're going to have a bunch of kickouts. Guys are going to make shock faces when guys kick out. Somebody's going to get put through a table. Someone's going to get put through the barricade. It had the fucking bingo card was filled with this match because it was exactly every note they like to play for a good main event match. They hit. And I guess if this is the first WWE main event you've ever seen in your life, you might think this is really good. It had all they tried to make it seem like a good match, but ultimately I'm watching this and it's just the same shit I've seen time and time and time and time again. And it was, big kickouts, tables, barricade spot, shocked faces, heel finish, yada yada. And like, no, I see why some people thought this was good, but I didn't, because it's like, no, I've seen this same style of match done 80 times by this company in the last, few years, and done hundreds of times across the world. It's like, no, this stuff is not, I need a little bit more than this. I need a little bit more than guys kicking out and guys going through barricades. Like, that shit's not going to work for me anymore, because I just saw that 2 months ago and I just saw it last month and I see it the month before that. It's just the same shit. So yeah, it like in their mind, and I guess in terms of like people who, really, really, really like this company, it had all the structure of a good WWE main event. It had all the build of a good WWE main event. It had every little, like I said, every bingo card slot you could possibly fill was filled, but ultimately that shit doesn't work for me because I've seen it 1,000 times. So no, I thought it was like fine, but nowhere near like a Haas battle or a great match on any level whatsoever. It was fine. It existed. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it.
Did any of these people watch Walter and Ilya Dragunov a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, that's a fucking fight.
I mean, is this even in the same fucking universe as Walter and Ilya Dragunov? And that's from the same company. You can sit here and tell us WWE bias and everything else. Same company. This wasn't even in the same stratosphere. Like, it's insulting to me if anyone would say that these two matches were anywhere near each other in terms of quality. I mean, that was a Haas fight to me, or what, much closer to what you would call. I don't even think that was a Haas fight necessarily. That was something different too. But I don't know. Roman, he's like working like Randy Orton now. Like, his heel style is slow it down, and the typical WWE heel, the way the heels work in that company, the way that they've worked in that company for decades. And the work was good, and my initial reaction was, this is an average-ass 2.5 star match, which that I think I was a little too harsh.
Yeah, it was better. It was better than that, but
I watched it again, and I was like, it's more like a 3-star match. So I bumped it up. And, I look on Grapple, and it's at 3.6.
Yep.
Which is, like, pretty fair. I mean, all right, I get it. Maybe some people liked it a little better than me. But it's like, I don't know. I thought this match was wildly overrated in real time by the people watching it. But at the same time, there were a lot of people watching it who were like, oh, man, that was just a nothing match. So, I don't know. Maybe it's just divisive or something. But, man, that's the kind of match where I'll never think about that match again.
No. Oh, my God,
like
never.
I've seen that match 100 times.
That exact same structure match, I am positive if I committed myself, God forbid what would happen in my life that would force me to do this. If I committed myself to watching WWE pay-per-view main events from the last 5 years, and I track every big spot and when the match, when it happened and the sequence of the spots or whatever, I am positive I could find an exact match to this match, an exact 100%. This kick out, this move, barricade, table, yada yada yada, like all to the exact beats that this match was. I am positive I could find that. And that's, to me, if you're a first-time viewer, that's fine. Like, if you've never seen this before, if this is the first time you've ever watched a WWE pay-per-view, if you don't remember this shit, then, okay, maybe you thought, oh, this is really good, or, oh, wow, this was a high-stakes, big, important match, because they did all these high-stakes, big, important spots. But again, if you've watched any WWE pay-per-view for the last 5 years, I feel like you've seen all these spots before. I think you've seen this sequence before, so I don't know. Yeah, I was kind of perplexed when I saw a lot of people putting it over as this, like, instant classic, and I'm like, bro, you will never. I am 100% positive when match of the year comes, this thing won't get a single vote, and if it does, it gets 1/10 place vote at most.
No, look, we've done this poll for 8 years or something. This is the kind of match that gets like 7 points and finishes like just outside of Sadness Village. It'll get some support.
Yeah,
it's not going to get any top 5 support.
No, God, no. I do love when like a match like this happens and people say, "Oh, that's a low key match of the year contender," and then it gets like 2 points. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, this is not a match of the year contender. I mean, and I don't know. I would concede if it seemed like if the grapple average was like 4.8, I'd have to say, all right.
I am the outlier. I guess I don't like this match, but everybody else
When
does.
have I been shy about saying, you know what, I'm the outlier? I always come on this show and say, okay, I was the outlier. I'm the dick. I'm the asshole. For whatever reason, I didn't like this. But this was not that. I mean, people, I think I just got wrapped up in maybe a few scant opinions. And the other thing is when I put my opinion out and everybody shits on it, and then I'm like, you know how I get. Then I get vengeful at that point. But maybe the 2.5 was a little harsh. But the next day I did adjust it up a little. I mean, after I watched this fucking thing twice, Rich.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, jeez.
It's because I was trying to be fair. I know I got to come on here and do audio, so it's like, I'll give it another chance. But I don't know. You seem to be on the same page as me in terms of that match. It's a match I'll never think about again. It's a match I've seen 100 times. It wasn't particularly stiff. Like, where's this idea that this was some kind of great Haas fight? Did you notice that they were stiff or laying it in?
I really didn't. So I don't. Maybe I'm not going to watch the match again like you did. But I guess I missed that because I definitely did not at any point sense that.
Were you getting shades of Stan Hansen here?
No.
Were you thinking about Vader when you were watching this match? I mean, I know I wasn't, and I'm not trying to be a dick. Like, I don't. Do people know what a Haas fight is? Could that be the issue? I mean, did this feel like Walter to you in any, way, shape, or form, or name whoever you want to name?
Yeah, I didn't close my eyes and think I was watching Dr. Death, in his prime here.
Was this Sheamus at his best, like caving people's chests in? I mean, I didn't, whoever you want to pick. I mean, I don't see this as a Haas fight. But anyway, we should probably move on. There's a lot more to talk about. Let's do this Undertaker thing, right?
All right, so Taker's final farewell. Joe, I've never done acid or any like hallucinogenic drugs, but I gotta imagine this is about what it's like, because this was the most bizarre, weird, what am I doing with my life? Explaining this to somebody if they walked into the room. This Taker's final farewell. It was so weird, and it is. I don't even know how to explain it. If somebody told me, hey, explain how Taker's final farewell went, what that was, and what the second. It is so weird. So it starts out with a very.
I would know because, like Ryan Satin said, this was the greatest send off in WWE history. The fuck is wrong with that guy? Is there something wrong with him?
Well, Joe, when you rank it among the other final send offs in in
That's
WWE
my
history.
point. What the fuck is he comparing it to? When have they ever done anything like this?
Never.
Well, Dean Ambrose got about 9 of them.
You got 9 of them, yeah. And this was better than the Dean Ambrose ones, I will say that.
Who else has gotten something like this? What's he comparing it to?
I have no clue. Just saying words to get likes is pretty much the Ryan Satin approach there. I have no fucking clue.
What's he talking about?
I mean, I guess if you compare, like, and the other thing too is it's absolute lunacy if you compare it to, like, you know, Shawn Michaels' final match is that Undertaker match where he tries like hell and you know, he's trying to beat the Undertaker to prove his life, and Undertaker just says, you know, just lay down, just stop, and Michaels won't, and then finally Taker has to beat him and pin him in the middle of WrestleMania 1, 2, 3, and it's over. And Shawn Michaels, before Saudi money, never wrestles ever again. Like, that's a pretty cool send off. Like, that's probably better.
It is, that's my other point. Everyone always comes back. These aren't send offs.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So it's like, I'm dead serious when I say, give me 3 more send-offs they've ever done. I can't even think of any. Like, so what's he comparing it to? Like
Bobby
you're saying,
Heenan being thrown out the back door of an episode of Raw.
That was a send-off.
The Manhattan Center, there's one.
And it fit his character, and it fit his dynamic with Gorilla. I hated that. I hated that. I thought it was disrespectful. I was mad as a Bobby Heenan fan. But years later, you're like, it all made sense. You know what I mean? Because it's like, that's how Gorilla would get rid of Bobby Heenan. Right? But it's like, they don't do, like Ric Flair. He came back a million times. He came back a month ago. Like, they don't do send-off. They haven't done anything. Like, what? But you're saying it's just words to say words on a daft fucking Fox Sports WWE account that mouth breathers are the only people who read that shit. So I guess it's just words, like you're saying. Like, it doesn't mean anything. It's empty.
Words to get likes, and it's just words. It's just words to say words. So
I mean, he wrote an article of the Undertaker's best matches, and he had to crowdsource it because he didn't know any. So that's the level we're dealing with here. Like, he farmed Twitter. He goes, "Hey guys, help me out with this. I'm looking for some of Undertaker's best matches. Give me some suggestions." And I'm like, this fucker's writing an article, and he can't think of any himself. 12 hours later, he's got an article out. The Undertaker's best matches in WWE history. So that's what we're dealing with here. I don't know. Am I being too rough on the satin sheet?
That's all right.
Isn't he fair game? He's got a high profile fucking.
Yeah, this week especially, I think he's fair game. So yeah, no, I got no worries. So
I don't know. It bothered me. But anyway, continue on with your acid trip here.
Yeah. So I've never done acid, I've never done LSD, but I kind of imagine it's similar to this. So it starts off with a barely like a comatose Vince McMahon who sounds like he's literally on death's door, getting in the ring and talking about, after 30 years, The Undertaker. It's like, my God, the voice of Vince McMahon. But when he needed to get into Vince McMahon, he went, The Undertaker! So he got it. I was glad we got that. But my God, does that man look like he could die at any moment. So he looks terrible, doesn't he? I mean, he's an old man. He's an old man who doesn't sleep, so I get it. But God,
he's pushing 80. I don't think he looks awful for a guy pushing 80. The thing about it is, when you go larger and larger amounts of time in between seeing him,
I think that's it. I think if we saw him every week, I would just say whatever. But yeah, it's like every 6 months you see him, and it's just like, oh my God, he's just like he's got like weird eyebrows. His face changes a lot, and it's kind of off the rails. So
he's fucking almost 80 years old.
Yeah, I guess he looks okay for an 80-year-old. So
his face is gonna thin out, and he's gonna lose. He's gonna stop working out at some point if he hasn't already.
That's not true. I don't think that's possible.
I don't think he could keep hitting the weights. Bruno's did. I guess Bruno kept lifting weights till the end. But I mean, and he's fucking old, and he's been pumped with steroids for the last 40 years, and and he lives a hard life. He doesn't sleep.
Yeah, he sleeps 3 hours a day and eats steak wraps every day. So I mean, yeah, it's
constantly traveling, and he fucking looks bad. I would expect him to look bad, but yeah, it's more shocking every time when he comes out.
So he says, "Here's the Undertaker," and he says, and then they play a little video here, and then we get a parade of old men coming out. This is so weird. oh my God, this is the weirdest thing ever. What the fuck is this? So we get a parade of old men coming out, and their music plays, and then they come out, and then Michael Cole just recites Wikipedia entry level things. Oh, well, JBL faced the Undertaker at Unforgiven 2002. It's like,
Yeah.
ding, 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 ding. JBL comes out, and then the Godwins come out, and then the Godfather, and just this parade of old white men just come out, with the lone exception of Godfather, just come out, and they don't do anything. They just come out, and then they go away, I think.
Well, they're the guys he wanted there, I guess.
Yeah.
The Jeff Hardy, Mick Foley. He had like one match with Jeff Hardy, by the way.
right.
But it's his send-off. It's whoever he wants out there,
Sure.
I guess. And could you tell the Godwins apart? I could not.
They came out, and I paused it, and I said, all right. I had no idea. I have no clue. No idea who was old Henry-O and who was Phineas I could not tell you, so.
Yeah. Is there like, I know it's pointless to break this down, but is there is the Godfather a bottom 5 WWE Hall of Famer?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
He was never good.
Never good.
He had a memorable gimmick, I guess, but he like never got pushed.
The gimmick lasted like a year and a half, basically. Well, I guess they went back to it. I forgot that after the Good Father run, they went back to it.
Yeah.
But pretty much never in his life ever had anything resembling a good or even a decent match ever. So, and was never pushed above like the semi mid card. Like I think IC title was about his peak, and that even then was like laughable at that point. So,
yeah, like he's definitely a bottom 5 WWE Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. So you get your parade of fucking guys that come out.
Yeah, well, Michael Cole says, the Godfather, a member of Undertaker's BDK gang backstage, and he participated with him as Papa Shango. All right. Kevin Nash, WrestleMania 12. I got that. Yeah. It was really, really bad. And then the acid trip to end all acid trips, a bunch of lightning in the Thunderdome. And then the Undertaker, this old, decrepit man, comes out in leather and MMA gloves as fake crowd noise is pumped in. And then fake crowd noise says, "Thank you, Taker."
Yeah.
"Thank you, Taker."
Yeah.
And then a hologram of Paul Bear appears.
Yeah.
As smoke fills the ring. And then this old man just has to rotate in the ring for like 10 minutes. Just never ending as the crowd the entire time.
Yeah.
What is going on?
I mean, look, all kidding aside, and how weird and fucking embarrassing this was, and everything else, shouldn't they have just waited till crowds?
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. What are you doing?
I mean, I was never an Undertaker fan. I don't care about the Undertaker. This meant nothing to me.
You can get 20,000 people to care about the Undertaker in an arena,
right? But what I'm saying is I'm being fair here. Even though I didn't give a shit about this, and I've never given a shit about him, and I'm not a fan of his, and I don't care that he's never going to wrestle again. None of that. I have zero emotional connection to this whatsoever. Didn't think it was a great moment. None of that. With all of that said, there are a lot of Undertaker fans, and he means a lot to a lot of fans. Couldn't they have just have blown up? Why just for this one time they had to do it on the shoot? No idea. And they couldn't wait until there were fans around to really make this a great moment. What the fuck was the rush to do this now? And on top of that, draw zero money with it. You could have filled a fucking building on this alone, like you just said. Why not wait a year? You know what I mean? And just make up an anniversary. They do that shit all the time. I don't get it. I don't understand. This was embarrassing.
It was, yeah. And this is where I said it was like just embarrassing to be a pro wrestling fan. As you're watching this decrepit old man in leather just like rotate in the ring back and forth as like lightning bolts shoot through the Thunderdome, and the fake fans piped in chants. "Thank you, Taker." It's so weird. What is this? This is when I was just like, what the fuck am I watching? Like, what am I doing with my life? Why did I choose this? Like, there has to be something better. Thankfully, I watched Noah after this, which helped, get me back and grounded and in reality. And then, Taker grabs the mic and goes, "For 30 years, I buried people, and now they've not to rest in peace, and now I must rest in peace." And then, he gets on his knee, and more lightning bolts, and more smoke, and more bullshit. And then finally he leaves, and then it goes to black, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you were a big Undertaker fan, wouldn't you be annoyed by this to some extent?
It's so embarrassing. I just felt terrible for the guy.
Yeah.
Just in this empty ring, just rotating, just like walking around for 10 minutes while, fake crowd noise that he probably can't even hear is just billowing through the, like, imagine how weird it was in the building, like if you were actually there.
Oh God!
It's so awkward and so weird.
And they were all waiting for him behind the curtain, like to all fucking bow at his altar.
Right.
And hug him, and it's like, this was fucking weird, man. This was dystopian shit. You're doing it in front of fucking monitors with faces on them, and who knows if those are even people watching for real? Because there's rumors that they're just replaying the same people from other Thunderdomes, and it's just piped in noise. It's just fucking weird.
Yeah, it's so strange. It is something beyond comprehension at this point that I can't even tell you what this thing is anymore. So.
Well, it was the greatest send-off in WWE.
Well, of course, yeah. Add to the lineage of other great send-offs that WWE has ever done. So
the Tesla coils and the hologram. Tesla coils. What the fuck is this guy talking about? God. So
I saw somebody sent me a tweet because now people troll me by sending me like terrible Reddit threads and terrible tweets or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's like a few buzzwords that those people send, and this one that got sent to me was like, "Oh, nice subtle way to include Paul Bearer in the Undertaker's final farewell." I was like,
yeah.
What subtlety? It's a giant hologram. And as the hologram went off, I went, "Oh yes!" And it's like the least subtle thing ever. It's like, there's Paul Bearer. He's dead, so he can't be here. So here's a fucking hologram of Paul Bearer, his ex-manager. Like, it wasn't subtle. Do you not know what subtle means?
No.
When the speakers blast that man's catchphrase, and you see that man, and the Undertaker kneels in front of him, and they go, "Oh, that's Paul Bearer, Undertaker's ex-manager." It's not subtle.
Right. Yeah. No, like subtle would have been maybe the urn in one of the corners or something. There's nothing subtle about this. Was like
dorks. These fucking weirdos. These institutionalized weirdos. What are you doing?
Well, I don't know what to tell you, man. But they could have done all of this in front of a crowd that would have come off like good.
1,000 times better. Yeah, for sure. Like, people would have actually been happy to see the Godwins and Kevin Nash and whatever, and actually give him a cheer and actually root for it. Like, yeah, the way they chose to do it was just the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
I'm surprised that they would do that to the Undertaker. Have him do this in front of the no fan. It's just so bizarre. But he'll do the Hall of Fame, one of these years.
Right, that'll be that moment. I guess you can do that. And I guess you can, for $1,000, you can get even more Undertaker send-offs. So
that's right. Yes. Oh, God, the fucking cameos.
He scooped you on the cameos. Shit. Yeah, you've been trying to get on the cameos for a long time, and they won't.
I know, they won't put me on the cameo. I'll talk about All Elite Scooby-Doo all day on the cameos. I have no problem with that.
I just love the gall of that company to tell all their fucking superstars, "Hey, you can't do cameo, guys. You got to get off cameo." They all get off, and then the same week they all get off, they let the fucking Undertaker go on cameo, charge $1,000.
Yeah,
I love it. This is great.
Yeah.
It's just
it's
chef's kiss. It's just perfect.
Such a slap in the face to everybody. So
hey, you bottom feeders that are trying to make $50 here and there. Fuck you, Undertaker. Yeah, sure, you charge $1,000. Go ahead, bud.
$20,000. $20,000. Didn't the money go to something though? Like, people are going to get mad at us. Didn't it go to some
did
charity?
it? Oh, I don't know if it did actually. Oh, did it? Okay.
I don't think he's pocketing the $20,000.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I feel bad now. So
I'm not positive, but I think there's some kind of something attached to that. But anyway, we got to do Noah.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's get WWE away.
Before we do Noah, this is the first time ever that we've done this live. I have to piss. I cannot hold.
Okay, so feel free. Go ahead. I will.
You $10 subscribers, you're hearing something no one else.
Yeah. We usually try to get in there pretty creatively, but there you go. Right. Anyway, hey, how's it going, guys? How are you? This is bad because I also have to pee, but I'm not going to leave now, so I'm gonna have to find a time creatively to jump in on this Noah 20th anniversary to pee myself, but not pee myself, but go to the bathroom myself. Anyway, this is a great opportunity now that Joe's gone here to mention this little pluggaroo here. If you are going to do your shopping this year, if you're going to do your Christmas or holiday shopping on Amazon, voicesofwrestling.com/Amazon. I would really appreciate if you can use that link. Nothing will change about your shopping. Exactly the same prices, exactly the same checkout. Nothing, not one thing will change about your Amazon experience, but a small percentage of every sale will go back to us. And it is important. Those percentages do add up, and I'd make it a little bit easier for us to pay for hosting and pay for some other stuff on the website as well. And then Joe can, maybe get that garage refrigerator he's been looking for so much. So anyway, yeah, we do appreciate it. Again, if you are going to shop on Amazon this year for any of your holiday shopping, voicesofwrestling.com/Amazon, we would really appreciate it. So I will not know when Joe is back on, so I'll just keep talking and hope that eventually when he does come back, he'll just shout something and we'll know that he's back. So
did you work an ad into my?
I did work an ad into it. Yeah, I was thinking, what the hell am I going to talk about? And I said, yeah, fuck it. Let me talk about voicesofwrestling.com/Amazon. So with the Christmas season starting, Black Friday coming up, yeah, why not? Make some money. You'd be proud of me. I thought you'd be proud of me, but here it turns out you're not. So.
No, I just said good job out of you.
I'm trying to make
what
some
else
money.
Could that possibly mean? Good job out of you, I said. Jeez. Yeah, so.
I did say one of the unfortunate things is I also have to pee, so I'm going to have to figure out a way to do it during the Noah. Or I might just hold it. How much longer we got here? Let's see.
About a half hour or so.
Looks like it's actually 50 minutes. Fuck. 40 minutes.
It's not. What time did we start?
No, it's just 2:20. 2:20 is our stream time right now.
Oh. Well,
you started an hour late. You started an hour late, pal, so that's what we have. So
it could be whatever we want it to be,
That's true. Anyway, let's get to this Noah 20th anniversary show. I need to cleanse my system with WWE. So this is Noah's 20th anniversary show, Noah the Chronicle, Volume 4. You watched... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Which, by the way, bad job out of us not previewing this show.
That's on me, that's on you, that's on all of us. Yeah, we should have definitely should have previewed this show last week, which we did not. So
huge show.
I apologize for that. But I watched the final 3 matches of the night. I believe you watched the entire show as well. I am going to hopefully go back and watch all of it if I can. Well, I guess I'll get your recommendations on some of the other matches that happened. But the final 3 matches, all really, really awesome matches. I cannot wait to talk about. All awesome in their own right, and all for maybe different reasons as well. But you watched the entire show, correct?
Yes.
And what can you give me? Maybe do you want to quickly go over the undercard, and then we can talk about the big money matches?
Yeah, I mean, there's not going to be any recommendations. I thought the undercard wasn't very good at all. In fact, I only thought there were 2.5 matches on this entire show that were worth watching, but those 2.5 matches were really awesome. So quickly go through the undercard. We had Hajime Ohara, Saiki Yoshioka, and Yohei. That's Full Throttle along with Muhammad Yone versus they beat Junta Miyawaki, Kinya Okada, Yasutaka Yano, and Yoshiki Inamura. Typical 8-man opener here. Muhammad Yone, I just, I say this every time. I just marvel. He's been a pro wrestler for such a long time now, and he's just had such a solid career. I mean, he's the kind of guy that you just, one of the guys who's just a glue guy on a roster. He's been with Noah forever. He's in his mid-40s. His career goes all the way back to like Battle Arts.
He debuted in 1995, August 18th, 1995, and he's still like fine. You know what I mean? Like, it's pretty damn remarkable.
Yeah, he was like a shooter, in those days, and and he's had this. He transformed his career, and any pro wrestler in a dojo right now would sign up for this guy's career in a second. I mean, with the longevity and everything else. But he rarely ever gets pushed, and it's just one of those weird things. It's like, but he's a guy that whatever they have ever asked of him throughout the history of this company, he has done it and done it well. Whether that's a little tag team title run or at times when he has led heel stables for brief periods of time and got little pushes, or whether he's working openers like this and just being an entertaining babyface in an opener. It's just, I have a lot of respect for wrestlers like this. It takes all kinds to make up a roster, and it's okay if you're not like a top guy, so I really respect his career. Hajime Ohara is a guy that Nosawa Rangai cannot figure out what to do with him.
I'm always surprised when I see him, and like you said his name there, and I'm like, motherfucker, why is he just like not doing anything? He's in the opener. Like, you can't find anything for this guy to do.
I mean, I think we both respect Nosawa's booking this year. I think he's someone I'll consider for Booker of the Year for sure. He really, one of his warts and one of his he just doesn't know what to do with the juniors overall. It's just very scattered and sporadic, and those aren't the words I'm looking for. Just disjointed booking with the juniors in general, with everybody jumping factions every other show. And a guy like O'Hara, who he either doesn't like him or just can't figure out what to do with him, because he just, ever since that guy took over the book.
Yeah, almost immediately. Like, it was like the week that he took over. It's like immediately he was just like fucking kicked down to the bottom of the card, and he never climbed up either.
Yeah, so just your basic opener. Next match was Kotaro Suzuki and X taking on the Congo team of Heyo and Tadasuke. X turned out to be Salvaje de Oriente, because of course it did. No one knew who the fuck this man was. He came out in a mask, and people were like, well, who the fuck is this guy? And I had it written down in my notes because someone did incredible research and finally figured it out. I was thinking it was either Andy Wu or one of these, Wrestle One guys who have kind of gotten lost in the shuffle. But it turns out it wasn't. It was a wrestler from Freedoms. And I'm trying to find it because a Japanese Twitter user matched up a lot of details to show that it was this wrestler from Freedoms. And I'm looking for the tweet. I'm trying to find it because I can't.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it as well. I remember reading it, but now, yeah, I can't seem to find it right now. So
I know Eastern Lariat
retweeted it. Yeah,
so I'm going through their feed right now.
Yeah, it was something about a birthmark that they found. They're like, look at this birthmark, and it's like, holy shit, like that's awesome.
Incredible work by this Japanese Twitter user. Oh, I must have passed it because I'm like, I should have just ran a search on Eastern Lariat's feed. Oh, here we go. This user identified Salvaje de Oriente as Freedom's Yuya Susumu, based on using the same finishing maneuver and a very nice detail. Salvaje and Susumu have the same black birthmark on their backs. How about that?
That's insane. I love it.
And then it goes on to say, Yuya Susumu working for Noah makes perfect sense as he completes the trio of WrestleGate students of him, Hayata, and Seiki Yoshioka. So it makes sense because he already has connections in the company. And Susumu has also worked under a mask in the past as Dragon Joker in Tenru Project. So a lot of clues there. Tremendous job by this Japanese Twitter user at Napon XXX, who did this detective work, and Eastern Lariat for signal boosting their detective work. So, look, guy got a push right out of a gate. So it looks like they're bringing this guy in, and he's going to be part of the roster. And we'll see what happens. He looked like shit. This was not a good debut, this new wrestler. No, it was sloppy. Wasn't good. So then we had the Friends of Wrong Guy, and there were a lot of them on this show. Kazuyuki Fujita, Kendo Kashin, and Nasawa Rangai, and they defeated Manabu Soya, Masakita Miya, and Neo. 6-man match. Basically just Rangai and his old pals against 3 guys who, were just thrown on the card, who weren't really involved in programs right now. And, of course, the veterans win the match. And it was, shit. It's what it was. I'm
not going to watch that. I definitely have no interest in watching that match whatsoever, so...
He brings in his old friends, and, Fujita, I'm not even sure he took a bump, and Kendo Kashin has been shit for a number of years, and there's just nothing to see here.
20 in fact, 20 and counting for Kendo Kashin, so congratulations.
Yeah, it was just junk. Then we had Keiji Muto, who is on a hot winning streak at the age
what is happening? Okay, because I did not watch this match, and I'm looking at the tweets, and I'm looking at the results, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? This guy won? Like, and he's like getting a title shot? What you have to clue me on what the hell's going on here.
Okay, so he's 57 years old. And if you're surprised that he beat Taniguchi, which I wasn't, I figured he was going to beat Taniguchi. This dude beat Kiyomiya a couple of months ago.
That's what I mean. I'm just so surprised that he keeps winning.
And I liked that match. I thought it was actually a pretty great match. This match was fucking terrible. I mean, this was bad. I'm looking at Cage Match now, and the inmates have it at 5.67, which works out to like 2.8 or something like that.
Yeah, somewhere in that range.
I don't even think it was that good. I could give you my grapple rating in a minute if you let me pull it up. But I probably gave this like 1 star. I thought it was awful. And I thought, okay, he beat Kiyomiya a few months ago, so I see what's happening here. Kiyomiya is going to win the national title tonight. And then Muto is going to come out and say, I want a shot at that. And now the booking's all going to make sense, right? Like, that would be logical. And Taniguchi, you can beat him because who gives a fuck, right? You're never pushing him. So that's what I figured they were doing. But obviously, as you know, that's definitely not what they're doing. And he's going for the big belt. So, because Kiyomiya lost. And now, he's cutting promos saying he's going for the big belt. So, yes, in 2021, 58-year-old Keiji Muto is going to challenge.
107 knee surgeries and 8, fused hips later, Keiji Muto going for the big belt.
I guess they think it could draw.
All right. Cool.
I don't know what else to add.
Okay, that's fine.
I thought Kiyomiya would win the national title and then get his win back against Muto.
Right.
And then I would say, wrong guy, you've done it again. Right? Clever booking. Now beating this young kid makes sense because he's going to beat Muto in the rematch. But no, it's not what they're doing. Anyway, business end of the card. We had Hayata and Yoshinari Ogawa, and that's Stinger, of course, and they win the GAC Junior Tag Team titles as they defeat Katoge and Harada, who have recently been put back together. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, didn't we? Putting those guys.
Yeah. We talked about how, and that whole. I mean, those guys just bounce back. I mean, that when you talk about like the there's weird like. Just no rhyme or reason to what's going on in the juniors. Like, this is a big part of it too. Like, guys turning on each other so often that you fucking have no clue who's with who. What
you forget who's with who, and then brawls break out, and you're like, you can't even make sense of it. But the one constant, okay, is Stinger fucking rules and Ogawa rules. And Rich, I have to tell you, I watched this whole show live. At this point in the show, Ogawa was the best worker on this show, and it wasn't even close. He was so good in this match. And this wasn't even a great match. I thought this was a very average match. In fact, I thought Hayata looked like shit, which he usually does. Hayata and Yohei, they aren't very good. Katoge and Harada looked okay. And, there's some value in seeing those two guys come back together as a team. Remember, they had that hot run in 2015, 2016, whatever it was. But Ogawa blew everybody away in this match. He blew everybody else away on the show to this point. And, Rich, he's 54 years old, Yoshinari Ogawa. He's having a great year. He's easily one of the 20 best wrestlers in the world in 2020. I mean, because he's been in the mix and he's getting pushed for once. Because remember, a lot of times they don't push him. And he's just an opening match guy. He has not lost a step. He doesn't age. I mean, I'm going to give you some. He started his career in All Japan in 1985.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Okay?
He's wrestled longer than I've been alive. Yeah, just to give you context there.
Rich, Tsuyoshi Kikuchi, who All Japan undercard guy, very good worker.
Yeah.
At this point in his career, he still wrestles, but he's like old and washed up, and like he can't. He started his career 2 years after Ogawa.
That's nuts.
Isn't that crazy?
That's
like
insane,
like this guy has been in Noah for 20 years. Ogawa, okay, he's been in Noah from day one, and he's been in Noah for 20 years, and that comes after a 16-year career in All Japan. He was in All Japan for 16 years. Now he's been in Noah for 20 years. He's been wrestling for 36 years. He's 54 years old, and he is one of the 20 best wrestlers in the world this year, easily. And I watch everything. He's been great. And he was great in this match. This guy's fucking awesome. And I really think people who haven't been paying attention to Noah, I've got the matches. I've talked about them behind the paywall in my written reviews. Go back and take a look at this guy's year. And this match wasn't anything special, but he was awesome in this match. And when I look, and I like Noah right now. I really like Noah right now. I'm into the Noah right now. And I look at their roster, and he is one of the 5 best wrestlers on the roster. And I don't even think I'm being crazy with that opinion. And I know you can't comment because you didn't watch this match, and maybe you haven't watched as much Noah as I have, especially the down card stuff where he's been.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I've been primarily watching the major matches, but yeah, not a ton of the undercard stuff.
Motherfucker, this guy's good. And I know we're going to do our Voices of Wrestling FSM top 50 again, probably at the end of the year. We kept that alive last year.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
I'm telling you right now, I'm going to have this guy in my top 20. I don't know how high I can get him, but I cannot think of 20 wrestlers this year who have been better than him. He's 54. And Rich, he looks exactly the same way he like, if you watched him win the GHC title from Jun Akiyama 18 years ago, and then watch this match tonight, not only does he wrestle exactly the same, he looks exactly the same. He doesn't age. He wears the same gear. He's been wearing the same gear for like 25 years. He doesn't even change his gear. The fucking black tights with the tiger stripes. And it says, in case you forgot who he is, it says Yoshinori Ogawa on his hat.
Right. It looks like indie trunks, like the guys that come out their first, because it's literally the same ones he's worn since he started. It's
I mean, he hasn't changed his gear in 25 years. He never ages. He looks the same. He's in tremendous shape, and he works circles around these guys that are 28 years old. So I wanted to put him over strong.
I could not believe when you gave the date that he started in 1985, September 3rd, 1985. He has his first match ever against Shinji Sasazaki, I believe is how you pronounce it. So Sasazaki, who ended up becoming Samurai and stuff, and he went to America. He retired in 1990. So he's been the guy he made his debut with retired 30 years ago, by the way.
Yeah.
It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. He debuted before Kikuchi. And like Kikuchi's completely washed
up.
Yeah,
Kikuchi's had his run, resin fallen, and now he's just kind of a dude that just kind of hangs around. Yeah, it's pretty insane.
Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
On the show that he debuted, the final two matches feature Tiger Jeet Singh and Killer Khan are both wrestling.
Yeah,
like that's how long he spans. Like you could do a 6 degrees of wrestling and get pretty fucking far with using Ogawa, Tiger Jeet Singh, and then like you know what I mean. Like you can get into like the 50s with that, right?
Oh, God, farther than that, probably.
Like Tiger Jeet, yeah, because when did Jeet start? He's like, I mean, I guess with stuff that you actually have on record, yeah. What you got to go back? I don't know. I forget how far you could go back with him, but yeah, you're
dude. Ogawa's wrestled. He wrestled Momota. He wrestled.
Right, you can maybe Ogawa. Jeet might not even be the best one. You might even be able to go to the fucking 50s and the 40s, and then you can get to Ricky Dosan at that point.
You go literally to you can connect him very literally to the start of Japanese pro wrestling with 1 degree.
Right.
Like that's 1985.
It's insane.
And he's not like these other fucking dinosaurs who stink. Like Fujita, he like looks like he can't even he looks like he's like rigor mortis is setting in. The guy can barely like run the ropes and walk across the ring. You know, it's like Muto, you know, the shot knees and everything else. I mean, you know, this guy still goes in there and wrestles the same way he wrestled in 1990. And I'm not even exaggerating. It's really incredible. And I don't think he gets enough attention as like we give to the Mochizukis and the Negro Casases and these other guys who are, you know, Yuji Nagata and some of these other dudes who are kind of in his age range. And he gets left out for some reason. You know, it's probably because of where he wrestles and whatnot. And again, he's hardly ever – this year he's been pushed. Normally he doesn't get pushed. So I think that has a lot to do with it too. But he used to come on those Lionsgate New Japan shows.
And those were awesome. I miss those shows so much.
He would just stretch the New Japan Young Boys, you know, and it's like, you know, man, I don't know. He's just, I really wanted to give him some dedicated time.
Yeah, so he's a guy that has come up, like people have always, you know, when I do those Q&As, a lot of people will ask me, hey, you know, if you could do a pro wrestling trade, like what would you do? And one of the ones that I made that a lot of people were like, that's actually a pretty good trade, is I would trade Hiroki Goto to Noah and take Ogawa back. Because I think it would give Ogawa like a big, and I understand, like crossing trades in and of themselves are kind of ridiculous or whatever.
Yeah.
And like, but I just love the idea of him finally getting that big run, being able to be on a Wrestle Kingdom, like mucking it up with like your Kanemoros and your El Desperados and whatnot. And Goto, I mean, come on, he'd be fucking tremendous in Noah. Like, he's lost in New Japan doing that. I think that is honestly like the best trade I could come up with is give Ogawa to New Japan. Let him, muck it up, and he mucks up with these guys perfectly. And Noah, I don't want to take away from Noah, but it's mostly that I just want to give him like that one big run. You know what I mean? That one big moment or whatever. And yeah, it's like that's the one that always comes to me is Ogawa getting a bigger spotlight and just being able to have more opportunity for more people to say, "Holy shit, this guy's still good." And wait, how old is he? Like, yeah, that's I just want that for him before he retires.
How about Ogawa just totally grounding Hiromu and working over his legs for 20 minutes?
That's what I mean. Think about the matches he could have in the New Japan Junior division. And again, it's like he does great in the Noah division, but God, there's some great matches there.
That trade makes a lot of sense because you could squeeze the last bit of juice out of Hiroki Goto, mixing it up with these fucking ass kickers on top of the Noah card, because Goto, he's done in New Japan. I mean,
for sure, yeah. But you could put him in the main event that we're talking about. It could be him versus Shiozaki, and it'd be almost exactly the same match. It would fucking rule.
I think that's a great trade. I think you thought of a really great one, which would be real. Now, look, this is all fantasy bullshit.
It's never ever in the universe happening,
but that would be a lot of fun. And Ogawa would have a lot of juniors that he's never worked with in New Japan to mix it up with and bring a different style to the table too. I mean, because he could do it all. He can get grimy with Despy and Dookie, and he can bring a totally different element to Hiromu, and he could wrestle young guys like Sho and Rob. Oh man, Ogawa versus Robbie Eagles. I mean, yeah, there's a lot.
Yui Uemura, like stepping up to him and slapping him, and then him just fucking stretching his ass for 10 minutes. Oh.
Yeah,
great.
Be awesome. Yeah, it really would be good. But nothing about him changed. Same haircut, same fucking vest.
Yeah, still ugly as fuck. Yeah, ugly as hell, which is perfect. I like that he's ugly.
Oh, it's perfect that he's ugly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
His face got run over by a car, but that's fine. That's exactly what you want. So
it looks like his face was on fire, and you put it out with an ice pick. He's just an ugly dude, and he hasn't gained or lost a pound in 36 years. Like, he looks exactly the same. It's just he's just it's just notable how great that guy still is. Now Rich can jump in because we're at the true business end of the card.
Yeah.
Kano defeats Kaito Kiyomiya, national title match. Again, I was surprised by the result after seeing Muto win, but they've got bigger plans for that youngster Keiji Muto. So look, I don't think this was the best match these two have ever had. I did think it was low-end notebook material, and I really enjoyed the finish. I love their rivalry. It's one of my favorite rivalries in all of wrestling. Kano is very good at rivalries, and that's notable for him. I mean, he's got a great one with Nakajima. I'm sure they got more matches in the future now that they're this uneasy stablemates and all that, but Kano and Kaito Kiyomiya is another one. I just love their rivalry. The matches usually end with somebody either getting knocked out or tapped out when it comes to these two. What did you think of this?
No, I think that line that you bring up is exactly what I was going to say about this. Is I loved how Kano wrestled this like this is a personal grudge, and he's always great at doing that. And Kano's a guy who like I kind of vary on it. Like, there's sometimes where I think he's like one of the best wrestlers in the world, and other times where I'm just kind of like, he's fine. I mean, he's an okay guy. But anytime he's in these matches that are like these blow-offs to a big feud or something that he can sink his teeth into, it definitely feels that. You can sense that in the way he wrestles, and he changes his style to fit that as well. So he'll get in there and just beat the fuck out of a guy. And that's what he did here with Kiyomiya. He just beat the fuck out of him, beat the fuck out of him. Kiyomiya was kind of the high flyer trying to kind of, win in that way and eventually, no, it doesn't happen. Kanoa just locks him in a fucking hold, and Kiyomiya just basically passes out until he has to, I think, he didn't end up tapping out, did he? Or did he just pass out? I forget.
I don't know if he tapped or passed out. That's a good question.
I forget if he did. They zoomed in on his face, and it was perfect because you just see the life like leaving his body as the match ends. And I forget if he tapped or ended up just
It's
passing
a
out. But
rear naked choke finish.
Right. So yeah, I forget exactly how the referee called it or whatever, but it didn't matter because it was just perfect. It was a great finish for it, and I was surprised by the result as well. But when it was all done, I was like, you know what, that's fine because Kano looked like an ass kicker, and he looked pretty great in it as well. So I was fine with the result, and it's not like Kano's not a guy that you wouldn't want to push either. Like I thought Kiyomiya would win this as well, but I'm fine with Kano winning this. I'm fine with him moving on, and I thought this was a great match. I thought he in particular was tremendous, and Kiyomiya was fine in this match. I thought he did a really good, high flying throughout, but I thought Kano was just a perfect ass kicker in this. I absolutely loved his output in this match.
Yeah, I mean, they had a match when Kiyomiya was a young boy. You kind of throw that one out, but then they had the famous match on January 6, 2018, where Kano is champion and he wins by KO. Kiyomiya had just returned, remember?
Yeah, yeah.
He beat him by KO. They have a couple more matches, but then exactly 1 year later, the roles are reversed. Kiyomiya is the champion, and he beats Kano on January 6, 2019, because they always have that match in early January. They always have that show early January in Cork and Hall. And then Kiyomiya beat him again later in the year in another title defense, and now Kano, after losing 2 straight, wins this one. And I really was surprised by the results, and I really thought they were going to do the Muto thing. And I don't know where you go with Kiyomiya from here. I think he's been elevated to me better without the title. We've talked about this than he was when he had the title. But I'm talking about the big belt now, not the national title. But it's interesting because both with him and Nakajima losing the go, I don't know where you go with either of these guys right now. So because I was surprised by both results. But I guess I'm jumping ahead because we do have to talk about the tag team match. But when it comes to Kano, he's got this great rivalry with 2 men right now at the same time, which is not easy to do at the same time, but it just speaks to how good he is at building long-term rivalries because it's all in the way you work the matches. You look at the feud, the long-term feud he has going with Nakajima, and they've wrestled 8 times in singles matches. If you want to take it all the way back to 2014, which really isn't part of the current, but let's just for the sake of the argument. And in those 8 singles matches between Kano and Nakajima, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 8 have ended in KO, DQ, or time limit draw, or referee decision. They just beat each other up until somebody can't stand anymore.
I like it. It's good.
Like they don't pin each other. It's always like a knockout, or the referee steps in and stops it, and they're just violent matches where they kick each other in the head. And he kind of has that same feel with Kiyomiya too. So that's what makes Kano a really interesting wrestler to me. But let's talk about this tag match. I didn't like it, and I think I'm on an island because everyone else seems to have enjoyed it. But we had Kazushi Sakuraba and Takashi Sugiura. Of course they were going to win this because Masakatsu motherfucking Funaki was not going to come in and win a tag team title, for this. He's just one of these old dudes that wrong guy brought in for the big show.
He should have. He looks great. I liked it. He's got a slick look. I like the hair, the tan.
And he wrestled well.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, you can't believe that dude, what's he, 52, 53, right, at this point? Maybe older. Is he older than that?
I'll pull it up. I got the cage match up.
It's an old-ass show. I didn't realize how old the show was. There's so many old guys.
This is the fucking Friends of Nosawa come in, and they're all fucking ancient. He's 51. And he teamed with Marufuji here. Look, this match had its moments, but as a total package, I didn't think it was very good. Marufuji gave that apron pile driver to Sugi, and it felt like it took 8 years.
It took so long. Yeah,
and it's like, if you got to take that long to set up a spot in order to be safe, maybe eliminate that spot is all I'm saying. Like, you're both old as fuck. You're both like, well, in Marufuji's case, you're beat to shit. I don't know. Maybe leave that one on the drawing board. Do something else, I was worried for Sugiura there because the way it was set up. But I thought Funaki looked good. And I thought everybody looked good at times in the match. But I don't know. I thought it was too long, and the middle portion, there wasn't much going on. It seems like people like this more than I did. What did you think of this?
Yeah, I think I actually liked it a little bit more than you did as well. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, the parts that I didn't love was like the real beginning. Well, I should preface that. Okay, so I enjoyed at the when we got Sakuraba and Funaki starting off. They start off, if I'm correct, right? And just kind of, it was kind of interesting at first because it was like, all right, let's go. These two like old grapplers get in there, but then 5 minutes into the grappling, I was like, all right, let's tag out. Let's get some work going here. Yeah, enough of that. So that like I briefly enjoyed that, and then I was like, all right, let's move on, and they didn't right away. But then when they got, when it was Sugiura in there with Marufuji, when it was Sakuraba in there with Marufuji, when it was Sugiura in there with Funaki, when it was a little bit of a difference instead of just Sakuraba and Funaki, I enjoyed the work. Was it a great match? No, it's absolutely not a great match. It's not like a match that you really need to go out of your way to see, but I liked it. I thought it was pretty well worked, and I was interested in it throughout, and I thought Marufuji did well. I thought Sugiura did well, and really I thought Funaki in the parts that he was in did pretty well as well. It was only just Sakuraba who I didn't love, but this was, to me, I get Sakuraba and I don't fucking absolutely hate it. I consider that a success, and I thought he was okay in this match, and that to me is a win. So I think I liked it a little bit more than you did, but I could absolutely see why you would not.
Let me Cage Match has it at 6.67. So what's that? About 3.25?
Yeah, I think that's fine. That's exactly where I would have it. So I have no problem with that.
Fair? Let's check the grapple only because I'm curious. Pro Wrestling Noah.
One of those is going to be higher. Yeah, it's I forget what it's called. Yeah.
Let's see. Grapple has it at 3.56, so a tad higher than Cage Match. I gave it 3.
Yeah, I'm probably closer to where I'm probably closer to the consensus there, about the 3.5, 3.75, somewhere in that range. So
I gave Muto Taniguchi 2. I thought I went 2.
Are you the low end of that?
2.7.
Ooh, okay, all right. So it's not good.
And 2.7 on Grapple, and 5.67, which is what, 2.3? Yeah. 2.8. Math. 2.8 is 6. Yeah, like 2.8 or something, right? All right, so like the same rating on both sites. Yeah, I don't know. I did this tag. Like I said, I think people liked him more than I did. And you know what I think of Masakatsu motherfucking Funaki.
That's your guy, yeah.
Yeah.
He looks great. I can't get over how great. He's just like, dude, I've pushed that guy to the moon. He looks like a guy that could just whoop your ass. You know what I mean?
It looks like he still has something left. Like,
yeah.
Who knows if he was working a full schedule, though? That's the other thing.
That's going to be tough. Yeah, that's going to be tough. But yeah, he still projects like a fucking badass.
No, I buy him. I buy him as an ass kicker. And that's
I want him in a nice suit with the belt on his shoulder. You know what I mean? Just walking down, representing the company. One of those kind of classic guys. He can wear his old headband that he used to wear too. Down to the ring, that'd be pretty sweet. But yeah. Yeah,
and I mean, it's like he came in a couple weeks ago to win a tag. I think it was Sugiura and Nosawa to set up this match, to set up the title match. So you bring him in for a couple of shots, but it's like, who knows if he's working the full schedule, if he even wants to do that. And how would he look if he was working a full schedule? Right. I don't know the answers to those questions. Now, because 0-1 is falling apart at the seams. Yuji Hino is a free agent now, too. And we haven't talked about that. Do you think a guy like Yuji Hino, and I don't know the politics, do you think he could walk in like a place? Where would you like to see Yuji Hino walk in? No politics.
No politics. I would like him in. I think I would like him in Noah probably the best, but I would not mind him in All Japan either. I think he'd be pretty solid in All Japan.
Kohei Sato. He left 0-1 before Hino did and hasn't really. Yeah. I don't think he's found a permanent home yet. He's another guy.
He can go back to 0-1.
You're not a Sato guy, huh?
Not a Sato guy. Yeah, he can go right back there if he wants to.
So you'd put Sato back in 0-1.
Yeah, he can go back. Yeah, him and Chris Weiss and Hartley Jackson could fight each other till eternity.
But you'd put Hino in either Noah or All Japan. Pick one. Show some guts.
All right, I'll show some guts here. Let's throw him in. I think I like him better in All Japan, to be honest. I think they need a little bit of a boost more than Noah does.
They could probably use the boost, right? Yeah.
He'd be really good in Noah, though. Just having grunty, big, just meat-slapping matches, though, in Noah. He could do that in All Japan, too. Put him in All Japan.
Yeah. What do you think of those two guys leaving? They're in trouble, huh?
They're not doing good. Yeah, that's like the classic, that's telltale sign that the company is just, plummeting. When the good guys are given opportunities to just go away and pursue other, means, and hey, we can't really pay you anymore. So,
At the same time, though, were those two guys really drawing anything there? I mean, you can
no, and that's definitely.
And they've got the kid on top now, and they're giving that kid a shot. And those two guys have been there forever. Isn't it almost better wouldn't you rather see this kid in a fresh round of matches? We just saw him against Hartley Jackson, and he'll probably have a rematch if he hasn't already. Rather than just seeing guys like Sato and Hino just trade that belt into perpetuity.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I would expect to still see him on shows. This strikes me as one of those things too, where at least until he links up with somebody, if he does. But this strikes me as, hey, we can't afford to pay you as a regular anymore. So feel free to pursue other opportunities, but we'll book you if you want, type thing. Which again, is not a great sign for the company that person works for. But who knows? I mean, it's hard to say. But yeah, you can't imagine 0-1's doing successful at any level whatsoever. So. I'm sure.
Got Taru. So,
yeah.
Got Taru.
When somebody asked me pro wrestling trades, I gave Evil to 0-1 with nothing in return. Cash considerations was the return that I wanted for Evils.
Yeah. Well,
if you want, you can send me somebody, but we don't really need anybody. You can just have him. So bye. All right.
Kohei Sato has not come back. I looked it up.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. So that was one that we thought for sure that he would at least maybe jump in there every so often.
No,
but he has not come back. That's not good.
He's not been there since June. So he's doing a lot of Big Japan. He's mucking it up in some grimy places too. But how about this? On the 15th of this month, he teamed with Fuminori Abe. People get mad at me. Fuminori Abe and Kohei Sato defeat the Kubota brothers.
What?
Listen, on a Yanagase Pro Wrestling show.
I can't believe we didn't talk about that.
Kuboto Brothers produce We Can't Do It at the Sports Bar M Cafe at Gifu, Japan. If you wanted to know what Kohei Sato's up to lately.
Oh, man, I'm surprised we didn't talk about that show or preview it. Bad job out of us again to not preview the, what was it? Yanagase Pro Wrestling presents Kabuto Brothers Produce?
Is the Kabuto Brothers Produce show. We Can Do It. I guess they're big fans of the Water Boy. Yanagase Pro is the promotion. It took place at Sports Bar M in Gifu, Japan. I got to see how dirty this show is. Hold on. Obviously,
Bar M, yeah. Let's get ready for a Rich,
shower. You want to hear the show? Oh, my God, this show's dirty. Look at this semi-main event. Kenichiro Arai. Ugh. So we got our boy. We got the deep drunker himself. And he goes to a 20-minute time.
Oh, God.
Against Shoki Kitamura.
Ugh.
My God. Ugh. Third from the top, we got a little Shogun Akamoto action.
What the fuck?
How bad is this? Our boy Tsubasa pops up on the show.
Oh, all right.
Reicho and Sugi. Second match on the card against two men I've never heard of. El Aquage. El Aquage and Yanagase Cayman Fuerza. That's who they defeated. Have we identified Reicho yet, this man teaming with Sugi? I don't think anyone's identified.
Oh, no, yeah. Didn't we try to do that? And we couldn't?
Yeah. Does he have any moles? He got moles on his back?
Yeah, I don't know.
Look at this opener. Kanatsu defeats Momoka Hanazono. You familiar with those? Give me a little breakdown of Momoka Hanazono.
Oh, where to begin, Joe? It would take too long, and we only have about 10 minutes left on the show, so I don't want to.
21-year-old, 4'10" female freelancer, Momoko Hanazono.
All right, so I'm looking at M's Sports Bar. What's this thing called? Sports Bar M's Cafe. If you look at them on Google Maps, they show the wrestling ring. It is it's strange. There's like 6 tables. Some older looking Japanese folk sitting at these tables. They appear to be mostly old women for some reason.
Yeah.
The walls are littered with posters of Shinya Hashimoto, and there's a visible merch stand in the background. Appears to be in the hard cam of this place.
Surprised you found photos of this.
Yeah, it's pretty grimy. It's I won't lie, I'd go see a wrestling show here. Looks like a pretty decent time, but Yeah,
Well, that's what Kohei Sato's up to.
Yeah, that's not good. At max, it looks like these shows, full capacity, pre-COVID, these shows look like they maybe could get about 11 people in there. So these appear to be paid shows or something. I don't know what the hell's going on. Sports Bar M's Cafe. So
Momoka Hanazono, the Joshi fans are going to get mad at us. She wrestles in a lot of these grimy Joshi promotions like Reina and Pure J and shit like that. Pro Wrestling Wave.
Oh, there's also a giant cardboard cutout of Hulk Hogan in the background of Sports Bar M's. So there's posters of Shinya Hashimoto and, of course, Hulk Hogan. So
why wouldn't there be? So, all right, let's talk about this main event.
Let's do it.
And Go Shiozaki defeats.
Oh God, it's a video. Oh God, I just clicked the video. All right, so all the listeners just heard a really weird video from Sports Bar M's Cafe. So anyway, go ahead.
Main event. And I was surprised by this result as well. I really thought Nakajima would just rip off Shiozaki's arms like Jax from Mortal Kombat and put him away for good. Jax was the one with the fatality with the arms ripped off,
yes,
right?
Correct.
Okay. So I couldn't remember if it was Jax or Johnny Cage, but I picked the right one. But no, Shiozaki endures, and I thought this was a great match. Now, this is a match that will get match of the year votes, I think. And will do very well in the poll.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And I understood the story here. Shiozaki, once again, defending the honor of Noah. There was so many callbacks to Noah's history in this one. The kick/chop exchange, which was just reminiscent of Kobashi and Kensuke Sasaki. There were some Masawa callbacks mixed in here. And Shiozaki withstands a hellacious beating from Nakajima. That nasty ground and pound sequence in the middle of the match.
Oh my God, I love that. Yeah, we're for people that did not see this, so Nakajima's got Go Shiozaki on the ground. This is after like 30 minutes of these guys beating the fuck out of each other, and he's just elbowing this guy over and over and over and over again. He's on the ground. The referee comes over. Nakajima shoves the referee out of the way and just pounds on him and pounds on him and pounds on him. You're assuming that Go Shiozaki, this is how the match is going to end. That he's just dead. He just passes out, and Nakajima. Either in WWE, he'd be disqualified for kicking too much ass at this point. This would be the classic, you're kicking too much ass disqualification. But you got the impression that the referee was just going to dive in front of Nakajima and just say, okay, it's over. You killed him. He's dead. You've killed Go Shiozaki in the middle of this ring. You could
buy either of those finishes, either a DQ for being too nasty. He even shoved the referee away.
Right.
While he was beating him to death in the center of the ring. And don't get me wrong, I thought this was a great match. Okay, let me put that out there before I criticize it. Because I went 4.25, which is low because people have this at like 5 stars.
Yeah, I went 4.5 and I looked like a loser compared to what I saw on Grapple. So there you go.
But there were some things I didn't like about it. I thought the middle portion was pretty boring, if I'm being honest. I thought this match was 42 minutes. Mm-hmm. And it didn't feel super long to me, but I still feel like they could have chopped out 8 to 10 minutes and not lost a thing in terms of the story. Okay? And I thought sort of Shiozaki's comeback, I get it. I get the story they were telling. I think it lost something without a crowd. Because I think if this were a crowd that were allowed to cheer and rally behind him as he was making the comeback, I may have went 5 stars on this too. Or I would have went 4.75 and maybe just taken off for the boring middle portion. But without the crowd rallying behind him, I found his comeback to be a little bit unrealistic because the level of beating that he took, he kind of just recovered from it like he was the Undertaker sitting up from a finisher. Like, it wasn't like a gradual comeback. He kind of just magically revived and then, hit all of his big moves on Nakajima and dropped him on his head a couple of times and then put him away. And it's like, I didn't think they did a good job with Shiozaki's comeback in terms of it being gradual and hard fought. And I think not having the crowd hurt that to some extent. I can buy a wrestler hulking up, so to speak, if 8,000 fans are rallying behind them and providing that atmosphere. But because you didn't have that, and you just have these stupid clap crowds, I think it took something away. With all of that said, I really did love the match, and I thought it was a really, really good match. But for me, short of a match of the year contender. What did you think?
So I liked it. I liked it a lot. You're buzzing a little bit if you want to shake your not to break the fourth wall a little bit. Sorry. There we go. I think.
Good?
Yeah, I think we're good. All right. Sorry.
All right.
Having
No
a little
problem.
bit. Halfway through you were on a roll. I didn't want to stop you, so I'm sure people won't care if the quality's a little low on the roll. But I'm right with you. I went like 4.5, or I'm teetering between 4.5 and 4.25, and I'm too much of a coward to decide which one. And on any given moment, I kind of switch between the two. And it's a stupid dopey star rating. It doesn't fucking matter, but still I care about it and I think about it. Yeah, I could go with the classic 4 2/3, but Grapple doesn't let me do that, so I have to decide between one or the other. But no, to me, like, and I understood the chop kick exchange. I understood the significance of that, the history of that. But dude, it went on for like 11 minutes, and I'm like, all right, let's go. Like, I know the Kobashi Sasaki match. It went on for longer, but that's motherfucking Kenta Kobashi and Kensuke Sasaki. You know what I mean? Those guys can and in front of a giant fucking Tokyo Dome with everybody going nuts in every second that it's happening. You know, it's a different story when you're in front of a clap crowd. So that I really could have lopped off like 5 minutes of that thing. I just did not need to see those guys go at it. And there would be brief portions where they'd break it up by a guy would bounce off the ropes, then he'd get hit again. Then he'd bounce off the ropes and he'd get hit again. And it was like, all right, let's go. Let's move on to the next part of this match. Particularly when I know that this match is going 40 minutes. Is I'm investing 12 minutes in these guys doing pretty much the same move back and forth to one another, and a lot of the same things that you said too. What I will say though, I will give a little bit of credit in the kind of the closing stretch to Shiozaki doing something that I love is he went for the moonsault and he landed on the shoulder, and instead of going for the pinfall, he rolled off to like go motherfuck, like I just absolutely killed my shoulder, and I thought that was really really cool. It was a cool way to kind of show that how Nakajima would kick out of that move, because then Go Shiozaki, after he holds his shoulder for a little bit and goes, motherfucker, should not have done that hurt a lot, he rolls over and pins Nakajima, and Nakajima kicks out that way. And that's like a classic Puro way to kind of have a guy kick out of a finisher without it necessarily being you directly kicking out of the finisher. It's you kicking out of, after a few seconds of that other guy, he doesn't immediately make the cover. He struggles to make the cover. So it gives that little bit of an out there. So I like that. But then, like you said, the last, 4 minutes of the match is Go Shiozaki basically doing all of his shit, just doing all of his big moves. And when you juxtapose that with the 38 minutes of getting his shoulder literally ripped out of the socket, it did feel a little bit like, oh, well, what the hell, man? Like, I would have liked him to just not use that arm, not use the lariat, not be able to do anything really with that arm. I think there's matches where I think a guy should never not use a body part, or or matches where I don't really care if you're selling a knee the entire match, but then you kind of rally through it or whatever. Like we talk about that all the time, selling body parts. But this is a man who comes to the ring with a taped up shoulder, a guy who looks like he can barely lift his shoulder above his head, and then 38 minutes of the match is the guy beating on this guy's shoulder. Like, that's a match where I could totally buy that the guy can't use his shoulder anymore, and maybe shouldn't use his shoulder anymore. So that is where I will join you in kind of thinking, I can't go 5 stars. I can't call it like a match of the year contender for me because of that. Because like there's that aspect of it, and then it just at points it felt like it was a little too long and a little too boring for me. But with that all said, I mean, I'm still at nearly 4.5 stars. I'm either 4 2/3 or whatever. Like, it's a fucking tremendous match. It's an awesome match. It's just 2 guys going in there and beating the fuck out of each other to prove who's the better man. And I'm never gonna be down on a match like that. I'm never going to come in here and say, oh, that sucked or I hated it or whatever, because I didn't. It was really, really good. It's just, there was things I can poke holes in it, and that's all we're doing here. We're talking about the difference between a really, really, really good match and a match that's going to get match of the year votes, or a match that I would drop 5 stars on. So that's why, you and I both like this match, but it does seem like, we're kind of trying to find the reasons why we didn't like it. But, you have to defend it when you're not going 5 stars, because there's a lot of people doing that. A lot of people that we listen to, a lot of listeners, a lot of people that we trust, a lot of people that I listen to their opinions very greatly that went 5 stars with it. And I'm not quite there, but I'm right with you. Really, really, really good match, but just not on that level.
I'm glad you brought up the moonsault spot, because that was great. And I don't think Go did a poor job of selling. I thought he did a great job of selling in this match. Even though I thought his comeback was a little bit too Superman for me, I still thought he did a great job selling in this match. I really think the match layout was smart, and it didn't work when fans couldn't get loud and rally behind him. I think that's the part that I struggled with a little bit. The other great spot was early in the match with that overhead suplex off the apron to the floor. I mean, so there were great spots in this match, and it was a great match. Grapple has it at 4.63, and Cage Match has it at 9.49.
Wow. Yeah, that's fuck.
And I get it, but it's like I wasn't quite that high, myself on this. But a great match, and when you have the national title match and this match, even though the rest of this show, I didn't really like the rest of this show. I thought the junior tag match, that was the Ogawa show. And that match was okay. And then you had these two matches because I didn't love the heavyweight tag title match. So for me, this was like a 2.5 match show. I thought the undercard was kind of shitty. So, but it just goes to show if the matches that are supposed to deliver, you end up coming out of a show. I mean, this ended 4:00 in the morning and I had a smile on my face because I enjoyed, the two matches that mattered most. So, Noah's in a real good place right now, and I think Go Shiozaki is vaulting up my Wrestler of the Year list, and I think he's having the best year of his career.
I've liked his output a lot this year, and Go's a guy. As I was watching this match, I was kind of thinking about this as well. We're a little over time, but who gives a shit? We make our own rules these days. We're big shots.
Blow off New Japan.
Yeah,
blow off
New Japan. We're not going to talk New Japan this week. Patreon.com/Wrestling Omakase. They're covering every.
Omakase's got every show because Rich and I are both way behind, so we don't have a ton to add about the tournaments that we didn't talk about last week. So we'll just blow it off and get to it next week.
Right. But John Carroll, patreon.com/Wrestling Omakase, covering all those shows. So you can listen there and get recaps and support good person there. But anyway, the thing about Go Shiozaki is he's always a guy that I think you always, and like when you'll always say, oh, you're not a Go Shiozaki guy. You don't. And the thing is like, I end up liking more Go Shiozaki matches than I really remember. And like anytime I go through history and watch a Go Shiozaki match, I end up liking it a lot. I just think I think it's like an expectation thing. I always want him to be like one of the best wrestlers ever and like a greatest of all time and like this, great generationally awesome talent. And I don't know if he's that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if he's that, but like, I really enjoy most of what I watch. He's probably better than I give him credit for. And he's probably better all time. And he might be a guy that when he eventually retires and I go through his career and I watch a bunch of old matches, I might say, fuck, this guy was really damn good. And like, I spent most of my time watching him thinking, he's not quite as good as I want him to be. Do you end up getting that same sort of feeling with Shiozaki as well?
He's definitely an underachiever because, he was meant to. And his career has been snake bit. We've gone over it a million times. I mean, seemingly, back when Noah was still more than basically a large indie, there were opportunities for him to be the guy. And like, he wins the title right around when Misawa dies. And he had a really rough career from a luck standpoint. And also, he just didn't have the necessary charisma to be the top guy in a truly hot promotion. But his work, I think he's underachieved to some extent with his work as well, but he does have a lot of high points. But I really do think that this current title run that he's on is the best run of his career. I mean, he won the title in January, and a lot of people loved the stair match. We didn't love it, but a lot of people loved that stair match. It was a good title change against Kiyomiya. Then the stair match, and then he had a couple matches, Akitoshi Saito, but that was for Saito, kind of a gold watch title challenge for him, and the Marufuji match, which I liked a lot, actually. And then he had the time limit draw against Kano, which I think we both really liked.
Yeah. Oh, I love that match.
And now this Nakajima match, and his N1 was great.
Yeah. He had the Mochizuki match that I think was my favorite one of the entire N1 was him and Mochizuki, right? That happened this year, right? I lose track of what year was year. That was this
N1
year, right?
was awesome.
Yeah.
The same thing, selling the arms through the whole tournament. He even had that little mini thing with Sakuraba where Sakuraba tapped him out in Korakuen Hall. Then they had the rematch during the N1 and had a pretty cool match working off of that story. This has been the best year of his career, both in kayfabe and bell to bell, as sort of this aging, veteran, old school Noah guy defending the honor of old school Noah, holding on by a string, his body taped together. He's pushing 40. He's holding off all these young guns, right? And he's having the best run of matches in his life, too, on top of it. So, it's like he feels like he's been around forever. With that said, he's only 38.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about this all the time. When do guys peak these days in wrestling? Mid to late 30s. You know, it's like a lot of guys, they don't put it all together until then. And maybe this is him putting it all together. And I don't know how much of this arm stuff is a work and what isn't. We talk about this all the time. You know, and I don't know if his body's legitimately broken down or not. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But maybe this is the start of an awesome 3 or 4 year run for him. And Noah's on more stable ground with the Bema. The production values are way up. They've got a stable company behind them. And, you know, maybe when he finally does put someone over for this title, it will spark them a little bit and push them, you know, a little bit, you know, ahead of the pack, ahead of your All Japans and your 0-1s and things like that, which is where they've kind of been living before the Abima thing. You know, and maybe, you know, this is, you know, we'll look back and, you know, all the failed attempts to make Go Shiozaki a guy 10 years ago, you know, 15 years ago at this point, you know, maybe this is will be the keynote run of his career. Mm-hmm.
It feels like it already might be. I feel like we already might be there, but yeah, we'll see when it finally, you know, when it finally ends. But I think we might be there already. Honestly, you know, going through his career and looking at it, I'd say the only other one would be his All Japan run that he had, and that had some highlights as well. But yeah, in terms of Noah, it's just a lot of like disjointed, weird runs that I really can't ever say like, oh, that's definitely like the definitive Shiozaki run, and this might be it. We might be watching it right now.
Yeah, man, he was a good-looking guy with, you know, tall, good size, ton of potential. They sent him to America. He, you know, did FIP and Ring of Honor, and he was supposed to him and Morishima were supposed to be, you know, supposed to take Noah into the future after they gave up on Kenta and Marufuji for being too small. You know, it just didn't happen.
Yeah, I thought a lot of Go Shiozaki in Ring of Honor. I remember, maybe I'm so disappointed too because I always told people, I'm like, oh, go here, oh, he's on the show, go watch him, and he was always like not very good in Ring of Honor, and they mostly had him in pretty bad roles too. He was like, you know, teaming with, you know, Sweet and Sour Inc. and stuff like that. So maybe I'm harboring ill will towards that because.
Yeah, I mean he was always a little too bland. I mean he never. You know, and he came up the same time Hiroki Goto came up.
Yeah. Well, once he lost the dollar store Kensuke Sasaki thing, I think that helped a lot. Because it was just like, hey, here's this guy that's like Kensuke Sasaki, but he's not as good as Kensuke Sasaki on any level whatsoever. And it's like, oh, all right, that's cool.
I just think when you look at him and you look at Goto, it's two guys that people thought, but neither one of them had the necessary charisma, and you can't teach it. You know, and that's why I don't think either one of them ever reached the heights that were expected of them. And you could throw Suwama in there too, because he came up at the same time in all.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And you know, and the guy in Dragon Gate was Shingo. The four of them broke in at the exact same time in the four major companies. And I, in my mind, have kind of compared the four of them as their careers have gone on. And they're all in their late 30s. Suwama might be a little older than the others. Goto, I think, is like 42. And they're all kind of, it's interesting to see where they are. Shiozaki, as we said, might be on the best run of his career, or in the beginning of the best run of his career. I think this is the best year of his career. Shingo still feels like a kid, like he just isn't slowing down at all. And we'll see what happens in New Japan. But he clearly did the most in his company, compared to the other three. When he was in Dragon Gate, he's a legitimate top guy and everything. Suwama, I mean, his company just fell off the table, but he didn't really have the necessary charisma either. It looked like early in his career he had that crowd connection. I don't know what happened, and now he's just completely washed up. I've been watching Suwama 2020 is an ugly scene. I mean, he's washed up. So I think those four, it's interesting to look at their career paths since they all broke into the four companies at the same time, and we're all expected to be megastars.
Yes, right.
And I don't know if any of them got there. I think Shingo got the closest. But maybe we shouldn't be closing the book on any of them yet. Maybe this
I think you can close the book on Suwama. I think
Suwama, you could close the book.
Let's close that book. I think we're done with that one.
And Goto, I think you could close the book. He's done. He has hit.
They'll never push him. They'll never ever push him in that company ever again.
it's all downhill from here with Goto. He has peaked. And I really think we're at the beginning of the decline phase for him, where they slowly work him down the card. So those two guys, I think you can close the book. And Shingo's always going to have a glass ceiling. I mean, in New Japan, he just is. But I think his Dragon Gate top guy stuff has been undervalued and underrated by people who just weren't paying attention to Dragon Gate. And by people who were paying attention to Dragon Gate who just don't like him. He had that working against him. Let's call it like it is. Jay never liked him. And that's your number one influencer when it comes to Dragon Gate for all those years. So, and now maybe this is Go's time to step ahead of all three of those guys. Who knows?
All right, so we are out of time. But again, patreon.com/voiceswrestling for additional audio with Joe and I. Jovember to Remember just released the Best of the Super Juniors Retro Series going on right now as well. Coverage of all major events going on at voicesofwrestling.com as well. As I said, voiceswrestling.com/Amazon. If you're going to make any purchases on Amazon this year, we would appreciate if you use that link. And we also threw in a plug for the Wrestling Omakase Patreon, patreon.com/Wrestling Omakase for coverage of the World Tag League and Best of the Super Juniors, filling in where we have not been able to, or we've been kind of behind on stuff. But that is it for us. So anyway, have a great Thanksgiving, particularly if you're listening to this on Thanksgiving. But if not, and have a happy, safe holiday. And for Joe Lanza, I'm Rich Craich. We'll talk to you guys next time on the Voice Wrestling Flagship Podcast. Take care.